Welcome back to the World Cup Fantasy Deadline stream. This time out of Matchday 5, the round of 16 is around the corner and we get 4 free transfers at our disposal. We don't get unlimited transfers yet again for the remainder of the tournament unless you have the wildcard in your back pocket, and in that case, this could be a decent time to use that booster. But the same goes for the 12th man if you still have it, the qualification chip, and also the clean sheet shield, which is currently active for me. There is a possibility I delay it to Matchday 6, which I discussed in my team selection video earlier today, and that was recorded yesterday and published at midnight. So hopefully you tune into that and enjoyed it alongside the best wildcard squad for the round of 16. I haven't made any transfers just yet, but I've got a clear idea of what I want to do. France players are definitely a priority, so Saliba, Magnan, definitely Elise if possible, but with that one, it would probably leave me a bit short in other areas, particularly that defensive line. I'm happy with both my goalkeepers, despite Pickford and Emi Martinez blanking against their respective opponents, Congo and Cape Verde. So, yeah, a lot to discuss after some absolute crackers overnight, especially Argentina, the reigning World Cup champions, just about making it through against probably the story of the tournament and the surprise and shock team of the tournament, Cape Verde, who obviously had a great campaign, but there are definitely some fires to put out, and also a few question marks like Medina, who was subbed off in extra time with a calf problem. But I think Lionel Scaloni did discuss this in his press conference, and he said it was more so to do with cramp more than anything else. So I'll talk about my plans with him, because that's a little change from the team selection video yesterday. But I had contingency plans just in case the Argentina players were eliminated or I needed to deal with them, for example. The same goes for Daniel Munoz as well in Colombia's 1-0 win over Ghana. So let's get straight into your comments as always, and a big up to everyone who is tuning in already. And we're going to try to get this video to over 200 likes and close in on 40,000 subscribers, which should be attained over the next couple of months in the build-up to next season, with all the FPL and UCL fantasy content headed your way. Banjo says, I predict a 30-second to go sub. Lucky Messi and co pushed all the way. Well, Cape Verde deserve massive credit. The second goal was incredible. The first one, yeah, I think it was coming because Argentina were too passive and they sort of played like they were 3 or 4-0 up. I think in that sense, Argentina were lucky, but when you look at the big chances and stuff, I still think they should have won more comfortably than they did. But yeah, ultimately, got to give credit to Cape Verde. They played very well. And I think Argentina, apart from Messi and Lisandro Martinez, I think the rest were quite poor, to be honest. My team has 2 English, 3 French, 3 Americans, 2 Brazilians, 2 Moroccans, 1 Swiss and 1 Colombian. Interesting. No Argentinians, unless... Interesting. Should I activate the clean sheet shield? I probably would, but there is a case to save it for the quarterfinals on Matchday 6. Ultimately, you have a few fixtures on paper, like Argentina against Egypt and France versus Paraguay, where you could argue that one of them should keep a clean sheet. Whilst going into the quarterfinals, you could get France versus Morocco, Argentina against Colombia. Those are the projected quarterfinals, for example. So ultimately, it could be more difficult to get clean sheets later on in the competition. But in terms of having your chosen players only concede 1 goal, I mean, that's... anything can happen there, in my opinion. But ultimately, I think the deeper you get into the competition, the less likely you are to get clean sheets, but you can still get just the 1 or 2 goals conceded, of course. But you only score points with the clean sheet shield if your goalkeepers, defenders, and midfielders have conceded just 1 goal. And that's where the main appeal and the gains will come from. So that's what I've always talked about, this match day or the next. And of course, with match day 4, you're looking at the qualification booster, which was a success for me. But in terms of match day 7 and 8, I've always bookmarked that sort of period for the maximum captainship. So ultimately, it's just about 5 or 6 when it comes to the clean sheet shield. And at the moment, I'm leaning towards match day 5. Spain versus Portugal is 50-50 to pick this round. I'd say it's probably more 60-40. I think Spain are the better team, but obviously Portugal have great talent like Vitinha, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bruno Fernandes, who hasn't had a great tournament so far, Nuno Mendes, the list goes on and on. I think João Neves is probably their best midfielder. But yeah, I get what you're saying. In terms of all the matchups, that's the sort of big draw, the one that's very difficult to call, and whoever goes through has a genuine chance of going all the way in this World Cup. But I think Spain are still the better overall team, but sometimes the best team doesn't always win. Easy says 138 points last match day with qualification booster, 436 points so far from 43k to now 9k. Yeah, good stuff, and there have been quite a lot of 100 plus point scores, but that's still pretty impressive in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, I covered this earlier, hopefully you saw that, Easy, but I think with Medina it was more so to do with cramp than an injury per se, but he did feel it in his calf, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tagliafico started against Egypt. 126 last week, 4k subs, let's go get 5, says Banjo. Yeah, 126, another really good score, and ultimately... Wait, what? Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure why the stuff on the left, I'll update that then. But ultimately, yeah, I think I know what happened. Yeah, I think I know what happened. Yeah, okay, let me update that. So what you see on the left is very out of date. That's from last week. But yeah, I'll have that sorted in no time. But yeah, let's see. Okay, this should work now. And then Bob's your uncle. There you go. So I got 122 points, just for those that are unaware. I have gone up to 87k, so I've got 398 points. I'm still a bit dissatisfied with where I am, but obviously I've been getting green arrows since match day 1, which was the real, I think, the big problem for me. I had a pretty mixed start, in my opinion, and that's why it has taken me a while to get going in this game, but the chips have been fairly good for the most part. Obviously, the 12th man was a bit of a missed opportunity, but that's probably the booster which results in the least points gained compared to the others. At least for the most part. You could argue maximum captain is also along those lines. The wildcard is always going to be number 1 for me, and I think it was a good use there on match day 3. And I've always been very bullish on the qualification chip for match day 4. It's something I did in the Club World Cup last summer, and with the maximum captain for the last 2 editions of the World Cup and Club World Cup Fantasy, I've used it in the final to great effect with a hat-trick from Mbappe and 19 points from Parma against Paris Saint-Germain. Good to see you, Baraf. I was actually feeling like a nap, but I'll save that for later. Up right on time. Glad to hear it. Some shocking penalties in the World Cup. That is true, especially for Germany. Yeah, I mean, that penalty shootout between them and Paraguay was very interesting. Both of them have a very good record in World Cup penalty shootouts. Obviously, Paraguay's sort of sample size is nowhere near as big as Germany's, but yeah, they got the job done. And for Germany to miss 3 penalties in a shootout is always going to be a bit of a surprise. Obviously, Australia, Egypt yesterday was another one, but Egypt, fair play to them. They scored every single one of them. That substitution of Matt Ryan ended up not being the right decision from the Australian head coach. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We're going to get plenty more penalty shootouts, I think, and maybe some surprise ones as well. I think Portugal-Spain has a genuine chance of going all the way, which is what Banjo was referring to earlier. I wouldn't put it past America to add a point for 3 crossbar hits. Yeah, USA have been actually pretty impressive in my opinion, so credit to them. But even if they were to beat Belgium, which is possible, I just don't really see them going beyond the quarterfinals. But they have a chance, and so do Mexico. I think Canada are the least likely from the host nations to reach the semi-final stage, but ultimately I think all of them will crash out in the next round or 2. Thank you, Falcon. Always a pleasure, and hope all is well too. Should I replace Nemecha, Medina, Manzambi, Kane for Molina, Riyad, Elise, Oyarzabal, or sell Nemecha, Munoz, Medina, Yamal for Molina, Riyad, Elise, and Saibari? I like both transfer plans, but if I have to be honest, I'd rather go for the second set of moves, which means selling Yamal and keeping Kane, and you also bring in Saibari in the process. Now, just be a bit careful with Molina. He's still not fully nailed on, in my opinion. If you have enough money, go for Lisandro Martinez, and I'm not just saying that because of his brilliant finish in extra time. I lost my voice screaming and shouting that goal. He also got the assist for Messi's first, and that was a great pass, and obviously Messi's touch and finish is incredible. But yeah, I think Martinez is the pick of the bunch in that Argentina defense. Maybe you got him already, but yeah, if you don't, prioritize him over Molina and Medina. So yeah, I think Medina is probably fit, but because of cramp, it's difficult for me to say. Argentina do play a little bit later in the match day, so it gives them a bit of time to recover, but ultimately there is a bit of a concern there about whether he starts or not. At the moment, I think Tagliafico does, which is why I'm open to selling Medina and changing my transfer plans just a little bit. That could include keeping Serginho Dest, who I talked about selling, for Hakimi in my team selection video. Instead, it could be Medina. French trio Musketeers. Yeah, Elise, Dembele and Mbappe look lethal at the moment, and against Paraguay, as good as they've been defensively since the USA game in the opener, I still think France will score plenty of goals here. So ultimately, a triple up in the attack is worthwhile. Credit to those that went in early on that. I was always of the opinion of having two and then one defender. But at this stage now, where you can pick 4 players from the same country, yeah, I think a triple up in the attack is definitely viable. Dylan already said that DR Congo will score against England. Now Mexico will make England suffer. Yeah, look, I'm not too surprised about Congo scoring against England, but when people said, oh, I think, you know, Congo will go through, and look, they almost did. They deserve a lot of credit. I still thought England would advance, and, you know, just because, well, I was raised in England, and obviously I've got a British voice, everyone was just saying, oh, you UK content creators, you're so arrogant and stuff. I don't even support England, so yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, with DR Congo, it's a bit of a shame for them. They had chances to bury it, but yeah, with England having quality, you know, in the likes of Bellingham and obviously Harry Kane, who made the difference the other night, yeah, it's always going to be difficult. Free defense for Argentina. After yesterday, I'm not sure about that one. Before that match, I think Argentina have generally been quite solid in this World Cup, but yeah, the first goal they conceded was poor defending from the likes of Medina. Far too easy. Obviously, the little deflection or the Lisandro Martinez was in the way, and Emi Martinez thought that he would get a block and sort of have that covered. So he was not quick enough to react. The second goal is obviously incredible from Cape Verde's perspective. It's a fantastic goal, one of the all-time greats, you could say, in World Cup history, considering the context. But against Egypt, yeah, I still think Argentina would be right up there for clean sheet prospects. Spain have the best defense in this tournament, but because they're facing Portugal, I think it comes down to Argentina and France when it comes to clean sheet prospects, but I'd probably say 2. Double up on the Argentina defense, have Lionel Messi, and that's probably enough. I think Argentina need to be much better in order to beat Egypt and then potentially Colombia in the quarterfinals. Of course, it could be Switzerland instead, but it's one step at a time, and I'm not entirely sure about a triple up now for the reigning World Cup champions. Are you going to keep Munoz or Manzambi? My current plan is to keep both. I'm well aware there's a clash between both of them, and the problem is they play towards the end of the match day, so it's not like I can really sub them out. So that's the main concern there. But in isolation, they're both good picks in their own right. I think Switzerland will score, to be fair. And if I was in a stronger position where, let's say, I had Lisandro Martinez instead of Medina, I also had Hakimi already, and triple or quadruple France, then I would probably do that and sell Daniel Munoz instead, because at Manzambi's price, you can't really beat that at 5.6 million and below in the midfield. So, yeah, it's a good question. Ultimately, I'd rather sell Munoz, which might be a surprise for you, even though I think Colombia will probably advance. It's not a guarantee. I think there'll be a cagey game. It could go all the way to extra time and penalties, but Colombia have the better squad, but I think they'll concede in that game. Easy says, Cape Verde is the champions in our hearts. Ahmed says, my team is Magnan, Mark Gay, Cucurella, Dest, Manzambi, Nemecha, Elise, Vinicius Jr., Lamine Yamal, Kane, Mbappe, Martinez, Messi, Medina, and Munoz. 12th man active. Who's your 12th man? Is it Lionel Messi? It sounds like it is. Okay, what I want to say here, that's Lautaro Martinez, isn't it? I like him, and look, 2 years ago, he was Argentina's best player in the Copa America. He was the Golden Boot winner of that tournament, but yeah, in this World Cup, he had a good performance against Austria, scored against Jordan from the penalty spot, but yeah, against Cape Verde, I said this earlier, only Messi and Lisandro Martinez played really well. I think Dibble, you could say, was okay overall, although he could have done better for the first goal. Everyone else was quite subpar, in my opinion, and that includes Julian Alvarez and Lautaro Martinez. Argentina need more injection of pace and creativity in that attack. They also lack a lot of width, and this was a problem in the last World Cup. Now there's no Di Maria, and I think the quality of wingers is quite low in the Argentina squad. But yeah, I think with Lautaro Martinez, you probably sell him. He's the one I get rid of. I'm not sure if you use your transfers yet. I don't think you have. You've got Nemecha in there as well. Interesting stuff there. So keep Magnan for sure. And Emi Martinez. Is that Emi Martinez, by the way? Yeah, I need to be aware of that. If you've got Messi in your normal squad, with Mbappe and Kane, then I want to know who your 12th man is there, Ahmed. But yeah, definitely don't go for Lautaro Martinez or any other Argentina attacking-minded player for now until we see an improvement. I found 2 Argentinians, says Banjo. Qualification booster or clean sheet shield? I'd probably go for the qualification booster because you've got more teams, more matches, and a bigger chance of getting those qualification booster points. So for those with both chips available, I would use the qualification booster now on Matchday 5 and the clean sheet shield for the quarterfinals on Matchday 6. 8.8 in the bank, need another striker. I have Mbappe and Messi. Oyarzabal. I said this already. I know it's Portugal up next, but Oyarzabal is probably the next best forward after the premium front line that I keep talking about. The other one you might want to consider is Matheus Cunha against Norway. Brazil have never beaten them in their history, but I think that will change this weekend. Bellingham, Saibari, or Barcola? I'd go for Saibari this week. Hi Dylan, when is better to use the shield? Ideally now, but I don't mind Matchday 6 either. It's quite close between those two. I put a poll out on my channel. You'll see the results fairly soon. Dylan, low Matchday points for you. Yeah, so that was already updated. I got 122. It might still be low compared to some people, but it's a green arrow. It's progress. Ultimately, though, I want more. Elise and Pickford or Barcola and Magnan? Elise and Pickford. Dembele or Gordon? Definitely Dembele. Mexico against England in Azteca Stadium with high altitude will be extravaganza. Is that what you... Yeah. No way England survived the match alive. Well, I'm pretty sure they'll live after the game, and I think England will win, to be honest. They might be very difficult, and I'm not convinced by England, but it's about getting the job done. We even saw Argentina yesterday. I think they deserve to win, but they made very hard work of it against one of the tournament minnows, if you will. So anything can happen in football, but I think England are the better side, and if they show their quality, they'll go through to the quarterfinals. The Cape Verde game really gave me a heart attack. It made me nervous, I'm not going to lie. That's probably the most nervous I've been since the World Cup final against France, from a national team perspective. Maybe Colombia in the Copa America final, but yeah, Cape Verde deserve credit. They looked dangerous when they attacked, but they obviously have a lack of quality in the forward line, but that goal from their left back was incredible. I mean, it's one of the moments of the tournament, and because I support Argentina, I couldn't fully appreciate it. The same goes for the match in general. It was more of a suffering than enjoying a great game of football, but now I can look back and, you know, appreciate what happened yesterday. So yeah, Tchouaméni will not play for France according to reports. I think it'll be Kone and Rabiot in central midfield. The left is always a bit of a concern, whether it's Luka Dean or Theo Hernandez, and then on the left wing you've got Barcola or Doué. I wouldn't be surprised if Doué starts, and let's not forget he has gotten a few goal contributions in this tournament. He hasn't been great, but yeah, he is the better player compared to Barcola in my opinion, and those two are going to share minutes constantly. But if you are looking for a scouting bonus opportunity, Barcola could be interesting, and even off the bench, he can return, but he's also quite frustrating from an attacking perspective. That's why with France, I always say Mbappe. Dembele, Elise is quite difficult to judge. Maybe Dembele slightly ahead because of the goal scoring, but ultimately those are the top 3 French assets overall. And if you want a fourth, go for Saliba or Magnan to cover their defence. Spencer's a must sell, right? I heard reports of James possibly coming back. Oh yeah, James. Not my name is James. Yeah, Reece James could be back. I just don't trust him to stay fit. That's the problem. But yeah, Jed Spence is a bit of an awkward one. I mean, Tuchel just shouts him every single game, which is funny. But yeah, it is what it is, right? I mean, ultimately, I think Spence is more of a sell. Ezri Konsa, by the way, is qualifying for the scouting bonus. So I'd probably go for Konsa, and I might even go there myself. By the way, thanks Easy for pointing that out. I'm not sure what's happened with the graphics, but that's going to be sorted now. So I appreciate that. Because I've been focusing on your questions, I didn't even see the graphic for good, but this should sort it out now. So thank you very much. But yeah, I think Jed Spence is a sell. I don't think he'll start if Reece James is fit enough to start. So there you go. So a big up here to Falcon, who's been a member for 8 months. Argentina Cape Verde was probably the funniest game to watch so far. We want more. Yeah, funny for non-Argentina fans. I wouldn't say it is for the rest. I did cover Medina earlier. Scaloni said it's cramped more than anything else, but he was holding his calf, and ultimately I think Tagliafico could start the next game, so I'm a bit concerned about that one. Gracias, Anier. Saludos desde Venezuela. Let me just get the message up again. ¿Qué pronóstico tienes para los partidos de octavos? Te puedo mostrar ahora y lo voy a decir en inglés también. Entonces vamos acá. No, acá. Ok. Puse Canadá 1, Marruecos 2, Paraguay 0, Francia 3, Brasil 2, Noruega 1, México 0, Inglaterra 1, Portugal 1, España 2, un empate entre Estados Unidos y Bélgica 2-2, Argentina 2 y Egipto 0, Suiza 1 y Colombia 2. Vamos a ver lo que pasa, pero sí, creo que va a haber algunas sorpresas en este torneo y eso incluye esta ronda que viene. So let me know your thoughts in the live chat. What do you think of my predictions and what are you backing? And maybe you think a different team will go through, like Norway over Brazil. I mean, let's face it, there's no way France are going to mess this one up, but I hope that is the case. I hope they do somehow slip up against Paraguay. Canada-Morocco is a very difficult game to call, just like USA-Belgium and arguably Portugal-Spain. But yeah, I'm backing Spain, Morocco. USA-Belgium's quite difficult, actually. I think it could go to penalties, and I'm not even sure which way that's going to go, but USA have the host advantage. Yeah, Balogun's obviously suspended. That can't be appealed, but yeah, Belgium do have more quality overall, so I'm going to have to revisit that one and sort of decide which team I think will go through. But that's why I'm not that bullish on Trossard or any Belgian asset, particularly their defenders. I'm not really feeling any of their assets, and I've got Serginho Dest at the moment. Ideally, I would get rid of him, to be honest with you. So this is a website that tracks the ownership figures. So Pulisic is now bonus eligible. Bono has crossed the threshold, though. He's over 5%. Ezri Konsa could be your differential route into that England team. And you've also got Crepo, the Canadian goalkeeper, who also qualifies. Marcus Llorente is bonus eligible, but he was benched in the last game. And obviously Trossard, as you know, I talked about in my recent videos, it was inevitable. He has gone over the threshold and he has more than 5% ownership, which is a shame, but I might still bring him in just to have that sort of mid-price midfielder to bring in for Lamine Yamal and fund the likes of Hakimi and Saliba in my defensive line. Now, in terms of the poll I put out, it's about the clean sheet shield specifically. 69% of you have voted for Matchday 5 in terms of using this booster, and 31% have gone for Matchday 6. Now, there is a case that this booster will be very useful on Matchday 7 or 8, but I definitely prioritize the maximum captainship for those respective match days, and ultimately if you decide to use it for the World Cup final and third place playoff, then you could use the clean sheet shield on match day 7, and it also depends on which other chips you have remaining. For example, the wildcard right now, it could be very well used, but it depends on how many eliminations you've got, injuries and suspensions, even some possible question marks like Medina, who I think could be on the bench against Egypt. There's a chance that Tagliafico will start instead. So once the Morocco and Canada lineups are out, I'll be going through them. But yeah, that's going to be in over an hour's time. We've got to wait a little bit until we get there. And let's actually look and laugh at some of my predictions for the second chance bracket. I put Germany to beat Paraguay. That didn't turn out to be the case. France to beat Sweden. I mean, that's no surprise there. I put Canada to beat South Africa, but I thought the Netherlands would beat Morocco. And ultimately, it's not a big shock to see the African side go through, but it did go all the distance, and that was a very tough game to call. Portugal to beat Croatia. That was a bit fortunate in the end. Spain over Austria. USA over Bosnia. And I put Senegal over Belgium. I thought I was cooking when they went 2-0 up, but they really let it slip at the end. Brazil against Japan. I put Norway to win. The same goes for Mexico, but I thought Ecuador could go through. I was quite disappointed by their performance. And England to beat Congo, of course. And the remaining ones, Argentina. I put Australia, and obviously they were a bit unfortunate to lose on penalties. And Switzerland to beat Algeria and Colombia. So overall, it's not too bad, but obviously the Netherlands have kind of let me down there. And also Senegal. So I've put USA to reach the quarterfinals, and I might even stick with that prediction despite them facing Belgium this time round. But I think France will advance. The same goes for, well, you can figure out the Netherlands here. I think Morocco will face France in the quarterfinals. For Spain, Portugal, I think Spain will go through. And USA-Belgium is a coin toss, but I'd lean towards USA at the moment. We'll see if that ends up being a horrible prediction or not. Brazil to beat Norway. And also England to beat one of the hosts, Mexico. That's going to be a very interesting game to say the least. And there was a lot of talk about the game being rescheduled. and being played like 7 hours earlier. That won't be the case now. Argentina to beat Egypt in this case, and I've gone for Colombia to advance and recreate the Copa America final from 2 years ago, and they would face Argentina in the quarterfinals should both of them go through. And yeah, England to beat Brazil, you can see that. Spain to beat USA, and also France to beat Morocco in this case. So yeah, those are my predictions, and we can talk about the semi-finals and final when the time comes, but that's my bracket, which isn't going too great. And yeah, the first one didn't even save for the group stages, which is a massive shame, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go back to the transfer section. Let's go to that now and play around with a few different ideas. I think that would be best. Big up, by the way, to all the members in the building. Thoughts on Baena and Barkala. So I'm guessing you want differentials who qualify for the scouting bonus. Baena has gotten goal contributions in the last 2 games, of course, so definitely want to keep an eye on. But against Portugal, I think Oyarzabal, Cucurella, Unai Simon, and Yamal would be the best options. I wouldn't triple or quadruple up on Spain. Even though I think they'll go through, I think it's going to be a very difficult game to call. In this context, I prefer Barkala, but the minutes are a bigger concern than Alex Baena. Suarez or David? Probably Suarez, but he hasn't been great in this tournament so far. That could obviously change very soon, but yeah, he got the assist for the goal by Arias yesterday, and he came on as a substitute, so Cordoba got injured, but yeah, it's mainly because of the fixture, and even then, Switzerland, Morocco as opponents, they're quite evenly matched, but I do back Colombia a bit more than Canada here. 12th man or clean sheet shield for this week. I'd prioritise the 12th man and use it as early as possible. I just think late in the competition, you have more difficult games to call, and yeah, I think the ceiling will be lower on paper. Obviously, you get exceptions to that, like Palmer last year in the Club World Cup final, Mbappe in the World Cup final, Lionel Messi as well, scoring a brace. So yeah, I think there's no definitive right time to use those chips, but with the 12th man, I've always been very consistent that using it earlier is probably for the better. I'm not so sure about Mark Tillman. He's a decent player. Obviously, I talked about him a bit in UCL Fantasy for Bayer Leverkusen, but in this context for USA, I mean, it's a good game, I think, between USA and Belgium. It could be high scoring. I've gone for 2-2. I think Pulisic could be the one, actually, in that American team. I'm backing him to sort of take the responsibility and get some goal contributions in the absence of Balogun, but he hasn't had a great tournament so far. Tillman can sometimes play deeper as well, so I'd be a bit cautious about that one. Dylan, ayúdame a elegir un jugador 12. Tengo a Messi, Kane y Mbappe en mi equipo. Para mí, tendría que ser un jugador de Francia, así que Ousmane Dembélé o Magalhaes para mí. Yeah, clean sheet booster. I'm probably going to use it this week, if not match day 6. That's the current plan. Sorry to say, but Mexico will turn us into tacos on Monday morning. Have a bit of faith, mate. England should get the job done. Mexico have played quite low-level opposition, except for Ecuador. Yeah, I'm still not fully convinced by Mexico yet. Barkala, based on form, you'd think would start, but I'm not entirely sure about that one. What I'd probably want to do is check and see what the French outlets like L'Equipe are saying in regards to that. So let's see if I can get a France predicted lineup for you. Because the left-hand side is the difficult area of the pitch to predict. But I'm quite confident that Kone and Rabia will start in central midfield, with Tchouaméni reportedly missing out of the starting 11 at least. One lineup I've got here has Magnan, Koundé, Saliba, Upamecano, Theo Hernandez, Kone, Rabiot, Doué, Elise, Barkala, and Mbappe. There you go. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why they'd put Dembele on the bench. I mean, here, according to the standard, they're saying that Dembele may get the chance to rest his weary legs. So, it's mainly with his injury record in mind, but yeah. I mean, that's not a huge surprise. I mean, Elise is probably the safer pick over Dembele, but the highest ceiling is definitely with the Ballon d'Or winner. I think Dembele will start for what it's worth. On the left, I think Barkala probably edges it over Doué, but I couldn't guarantee it, to be honest. So drop a like on this video if you enjoy it and also find it insightful. I'm answering a lot of questions and I'll be going through different graphics as well. over the next couple of hours. The deadline is at 6 p.m. in the UK. So, yeah, we've got plenty of time to lock in our squads and to finalise all the details. I've got the 12th man for the next round. Who should I go for? Well, it depends on who you have already. Yeah, I think with the 12th man, I mean, one of Messi, Kane, or Mbappe would obviously be great. I'm guessing you got 2 or maybe 3 of those players already. I talked about this with somebody else. One of them, Dembele or Elise, would be really good options. I think France will score plenty of goals against Paraguay. Apart from that, some of the games are maybe tougher to call. So whether it's Belgium against USA, the goals could be spread between both teams. Spain, Portugal, I think Spain will advance, but despite Oyarzabal being the main goal scorer, it's still a difficult opponent on paper for the reigning European champions. So, yeah, I think France is probably the priority for me if you already have that premium front three of Messi, Kane, and Mbappe. With England's right-back situation, is Quiñones a good one-week punt? Well, he's had a decent tournament, scoring quite a couple of goals. I mean, he scored the first goal of this tournament, but I still think England... Well, I've gone for 1-0 on my prediction. I might change that to 2-1, but I think England will get the job done. And I'm probably going to say Quiñones blanks. That's my prediction. Maybe it ages like milk, but yeah, I get it. It's a good point, what you're saying there. If Reece James isn't fully fit, there would be concerns. I mean, Jed Spence really struggled against the Congolese left winger, and Quiñones is even better, so that could be a potential concern. But if Reece James is ready to start, as long as he can hold out for 60 minutes at least, I think James could contain him. Mexico in the Azteca Stadium record, 70 wins, 17 draws, 2 losses. Yeah, I mean, it's a great record, but have you seen the opponents they've had? I think Brazil is the biggest name by far. The rest are quite low-level opposition. Dylan, I have the 12th man chip yet. Should I activate it for Matchday 5 for the clean sheet chip? I would activate the 12th man now and use the clean sheet chip or the shield on Matchday 6. Trossard or Baena? That's a good question. It's not completely locked in, but probably Trossard for me. Barkla and Hakimi or Elise and Chadi Riyad? Sir. Difficult one. I think both duos are quite good. Barkla's more of a rotation risk, but obviously having Hakimi looks really nice. I'd probably go for Elise and Chadi Riyad. We need to lock in every time we get scared. Good time to get it against Cape Verde. It reminds me so much of the Saudi Arabia game. Hopefully it has the same impact where Argentina wake up, they make a few changes. You know, the likes of Barco, Nico Paz getting more minutes and potentially knocking on the door because there has to be some changes there. And yeah, Argentina go on to win it. That's the dream. Last time against the Netherlands. Yeah, that was a frustrating game as well because there was so much added time and it seemed a bit unnecessary and it just seemed like the whistle wouldn't blow until the Netherlands scored the equaliser, but thankfully justice prevailed and Argentina won. Concer's terrible, says Lewis Mark. I think in World Cup fantasy terms, I mean, he qualifies for the scouting bonus. I think he's a decent pick. Replace Dest or O'Reilly for a Morocco defender? I'd replace Dest. I think Diaz is a good pick, yeah. Do you think... Oh yeah, this is in Spanish, sorry. It just automatically translates them. Hola, ¿crees que Digne inicie hoy? Saludos desde Ecuador. Gracias, Omar. Creo que no, pero tío, la verdad es muy difícil con la izquierda. Puede ser con Barkala entre Due y también con los laterales y Dean o va a ser Theo Hernández. Es muy complicado la situación, pero para mí va a empezar Theo Hernández. 2-1 Norway for me. I hope you're right, Thiago. ¿Qué crees? Says Rafael. Estoy igual a ti, solo que tengo México 1, Inglaterra 2 y Portugal 0, España 1. Estaba pensando en ir por 2-1 Inglaterra, pero sí, España 1-0 está bastante bien. Estamos de acuerdo en todos estos resultados, pero siempre hay, no sé, una sorpresa, digamos. The advantage of Mexico is the fans in altitude. England don't have time to adapt to altitude. Based on experts I heard, they need at least a couple of weeks to adapt that England don't have. Yeah, good point, but when it comes to on the pitch and who has the better quality, I think England are far better. You know, Mexico have no world-class players. Ultimately, football isn't like that. Look at Cape Verde yesterday against Argentina, who have the best player of all time. These things can happen, but yeah, in terms of the conditions, England can really struggle. But yeah, I think with the likes of Harry Kane in your team, you've always got a chance, and I ultimately think England will get over the line, but it's going to be difficult. Got Bellingham, no Yamal. Would you go Kane, Riyad, or Oyarzabal, Hakimi? Oh, That's a very close one, but I think Kane edges it. So I'd go for him and Chadi Riyad. Which player should I go for 12th man? Yeah, Dembele or Elise for me, depending on who you have already. O'Reilly to Riyad, Mojica, or Bruno Guimaraes to Baena. I would rather sell O'Reilly in this context. Probably to Chadi Riyad, but yeah, Baena's not a bad one. I like that. It's just, I think Bruno Guimaraes is worth keeping. Tillman and Martinez, or Molina and Brahim Diaz. It's a very close call here. I'd probably go for Tillman and Martinez, but we're talking about 50-50. I wouldn't sell Kane for Oyarzabal. The only context where that could work is if you're then buying a French attacker like Elise or Dembele in the midfield with the extra money. Otherwise, I just keep Harry Kane. So just going to have a look at some predicted lineups and see if I got any other information. Yeah, nothing at the moment that I can see. I mean, with Argentina, for example, they only played yesterday, so it's quite unlikely that we're going to get a predicted lineup for them. I'm going to go through England's predicted lineup and see what they're projected to go for. Probably Reece James in there. So this is by the standard again. Don't take it as gospel. It's just an opinion, and it can give you a bit of help there. So Pickford, Spence, Konsa, Gehi, O'Reilly, Anderson, Rice, Saka, Bellingham, Gordon, and Kane. Yeah, James and Quansah are doubtful. Ultimately, if James is fit enough to start, I think he will do so. I forgot to use my 12th man on match day 2. Is it worth taking a gamble and using that 12th man this week and clean sheet shield next week? Yes, that's what I would do if I still had the 12th man available. There are better fixtures this week and lower quality opposition still left in the tournament. As you get deeper, most matches, not all, are going to be lower scoring and more difficult to tell. Sometimes you might back a certain team and it ends up being the other country that ends up winning. And yeah, ultimately, I think it's easier to predict at this stage of the competition, which is why I used the qualification booster. And I think you did as well on match day 4. So I think that's the right play. Denme una idea para el jugador número 12. Ya mi equipo tengo a Messi, Mbappé y Kane. Ousmane Dembele or Elise. Para mí sería Elise, pero es muy parejo. How about Luka Dean? I think there's a chance Theo Hernandez starts, to be honest. I would probably avoid their left-backs at all costs. If you want to cover France defensively, go for Saliba or Upamecano. There is Magnan in goal as well, depending on which transfers you need. And I think most of us will probably need a defender rather than a goalkeeper. But yeah, good question, but I just wouldn't go for Luka Dean. It's not a guarantee. I think Barcola will start, but what we have seen is the left-hand side has changed in pairs. So we're seeing Luka Dean start with Barcola, and Theo Hernandez with Doué, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be that way. And ultimately, I think the left-hand side is risky, but you've got the scouting bonus opportunity, especially with Barcola, who might be worth the investment, but I'm just a little bit in two minds about that one. Hakimi or Saibari? Well, with the captaincy, I am leaning towards Saibari, which I talked about in my team selection video. So if I go now to my normal squad, let me actually change this. Obviously, Saibari is not in my squad right now, but once I make those transfers in, I'll be captaining Saibari. But with the clean sheet shield active, that also makes Hakimi viable, because if Morocco concede, which I think could happen, Hakimi can still give you clean sheet points, and he's got over 30 goal contributions for his country. So if you are using the clean sheet shield this week, don't be afraid to captain the defender. Now, would I do that over Mbappe? Definitely not. The same goes for Messi and stuff like that. So be selective with it. But in a case like this, Saibari versus Hakimi, the clean sheet shield could push you towards the defender. Hopefully that makes sense. And if that's the case, drop a like, subscribe, share, hype, and all that good stuff. So I want to go to the transfer section and just have a few ideas in mind now, just so you can visualize what I'm looking to do. even with Medina, there is a chance I end up offloading him, but Nemecha for Saibari is the priority transfer for sure. The front three will remain untouched. I know some people are talking about selling Kane to Quinones or Oyarzabal. Absolutely, valid, especially Oyarzabal, but I'm personally not looking to sell Harry Kane. If I wanted to get Elise, I could do Yamal to Elise, keep Vinicius Jr., and then a 0.4 million over budget. Okay, so double England defense against Mexico. I mean, I have gone for a 1-0 in my prediction, but I could sell O'Reilly here. And based on my predictions, I think Medina could be on the bench. I can also keep Munoz, Dest, and Cucurella. The downside to having Manzambi and Munoz is they play towards the very end of the match day. If I go to the fixtures quickly, so Canada, Morocco is first. Then we've got Paraguay against France tonight. Tomorrow there's Brazil versus Norway. And the late kickoff on Monday morning between Mexico and England. Well, that's going to be interesting, of course. But it's followed by Portugal, Spain, USA, Belgium. And the final fixtures are Argentina against Egypt and Switzerland against Colombia. So if you have Manzambi and Munoz, well, I'm afraid you can't sub them out because you either leave one on the bench or you start both and you hope for the best and that they both somehow get some returns, which is plausible, but on paper, the chances might not be that likely, in my opinion. So, going back to the transfer section, my sort of preference was actually to keep Medina and instead sell Serginho Dest, which I could still do, to be fair. So, I'm not going to take a hit, by the way, which is a -3 in World Cup Fantasy, as opposed to the traditional -4 you get in the Champions League and FPL. Okay, so I don't have too much money in the bank to play around with this. So if I wanted Elise and Saibari, I mean, ideally I'd get Saliba, but then I've got 3.3 million in the bank, which just isn't enough. So that's where I could sell Cucurella. And that's the thing, it's kind of forcing in this triple up in the French attack and also having 4 France players overall with William Saliba. So this would be my ideal set of transfers, but I just don't have enough, if I'm being honest, to really facilitate this. It could help a little bit if I sell Medina instead of Serginho Dest, but yeah, I've got 3 million in the bank. I mean, it's not looking great. It's not looking great at all. Yeah, so it's just not going to be plausible to do this. I think with Saliba, I've got to temper my expectations a little bit. 3.6, I'm still not going to be able to afford someone I really want in that defensive line. So yeah, it's not really what I want, and that's why I might have to sort of make do without Michael Elise, which is a bit of a shame. But it is what it is. I mean, there is Laria, and I'm still going to be over budget. I could go for a cheap Brazilian defender like Douglas Santos, but I'm 0.7 over. That's where I could keep Medina still, but there's a chance he doesn't start, and I get rid of O'Reilly for a 4.3 million defender, and that's where Douglas Santos or Danilo can come in. But I don't really trust that Brazil defense. But that's one set of transfer plans that you can see, and I'll keep that ready just in case. The other one is just to sort of forget that premium midfielder. So no Yamal, no Elise, and instead I could go for Leandro Trossard, and that means I can do Dest to Hakimi, maybe Medina out to Lisandro Martinez, and I can bring in William Saliba. Just need to verify that I've got enough money. Yes, I do. I mean, even in this context, I could sell Munoz and avoid that clash between him and Manzambi. I mean, ultimately, I could sell Manzambi to Bruno Guimaraes or do something along those lines, but I'm not really feeling it, to be honest, and I've already got that Brazilian midfielder in Vinicius Jr. So that's where I've got a few options at my disposal. Martinez in for Medina might end up being a bit futile if Medina ends up starting, which is still possible, by the way, but I've got a few more concerns after yesterday. So, yeah, I think that's how it would be. I'd bring in Saliba for one of these defenders. It could be Daniel Munoz, but he has been a very good asset so far. O'Reilly, not so much. So that's where I can bring in Saliba. And I've got 0.8 in the bank and no free transfers remaining. Let's see if I can put this in the context of a poll and see what you lot think. But yeah, I would like to sort of lock in my team within the next hour, maybe hour and a half, and give myself plenty of breathing room before the Matchday 5 deadline. So the first option, I don't have enough characters for this, I think. Elise, Saibari. Oh yeah, to be fair, by the way, with the second option that I'm talking about here, obviously, yeah, 0 free transfers. I still got Nemecha, who would want to... I want to get rid of him, of course. Saibari, 0.4 over. Yeah. That's where I just keep Medina then. Okay, so that would be the difference. So Sabari's coming in both contexts, so I'm not going to include him in this debate. Yeah, good question, but with the left-hand side, I've said this a few times in the stream and throughout the tournament, they just rotate too much. One game is going to be Luka Dean, starting with, you know, let's say, with Barkla, and the other one is going to be Theo Hernandez with Doué, and I just don't like that rotation on the left-hand side, so that's why I'd rather go for the centre-backs. Thank you, John. As he says, smash the like button, subscribe. We are closing in on 40k on the platform. Within the next month or two, we will be reaching that goal, and it's all thanks to your support. And yeah, big up to the community as well for everything that you've done, from the likes, the shares, the comments, engagement. And yeah, it's always a blast talking to you about World Cup Fantasy, FPL, and of course, use your fantasy as well. Sí, estoy de acuerdo, Javier. Es muy probable que Tagliafico va a reemplazar a Medina para el partido que viene. Ya lo están diciendo los periodistas argentinos. Sí, por eso estoy pensando en venderlo para Lisandro Martínez, y tampoco tiene que ser un jugador de Argentina, pero para mí tiene una buena probabilidad de obtener una valla invicta contra Egipto, pero sí, es una pena porque Medina cuesta 4 millones, pero para el primer gol de Cabo Verde fue bastante flojo y últimamente, sí, en extra time le costó un poquito y tenía que salir por, bueno, cramp, como dicen en inglés, y estaba muy cansado. Thank you, Ignacio. 4 changes. Option 1, Dembele, Douglas Santos, Lamine, O'Reilly for Elise, Hakimi, Saibari, Upamecano. They're good transfers overall. I'm thinking about something quite similar. So let me know if you've got the second one as well. So yeah, double defense for Morocco and triple up France, but they probably cross in the quarterfinals. I'd go for option 1. So option 2 looks really good for now, but because you don't have the wildcard chip in, you know, your hands to use for match day 6 onwards, yeah, that's going to cause a big clash there, and you'd probably want to sell your Moroccan assets, and obviously if France are somehow eliminated by then you're going to have a lot of fires to put out. But yeah, I think option 1 is probably the safer, more balanced approach. Sometimes that's not always the best play, but with the context that Morocco and France would face each other if they both win their matches, I think it makes sense to go for option 1. Yeah, that's not a bad shout, doing Dembele to Elise. If I had to pick one to be sort of rested or benched, I think it would be Dembele, so that could also help me in terms of money. I'm not completely against that. So let's go through these options here for the poll. So this would be Elise, Douglas Santos. I actually got one free transfer at my disposal. Yeah, it's a shame that I can't get someone more expensive. Okay, so what I'd probably do here, actually, is bring in Chadi Riyad at 3.9 million, and then Serginho Dest out, and I could just keep O'Reilly, or I could go for Lisandro Martinez. So let's do that. Elise, Lisandro Martinez. Let's put Lisandro. Riyad. Yeah, Medina stays in both cases, but I'm not a big fan of that. Yeah. that's where I could just keep Dest in that case. So that's the first option. And the second one is going to be Trossard, Hakimi, Saliba. So that's kind of what it comes down to. I'm personally selling Kane for Quinones. I think Harry Kane is more likely to score, to be fair, but there's a big difference in price, which I understand. The only way England win is if England players not running for the entire 90 minutes. I don't know, like, I'm seeing a lot of people saying Mexico are the favourites. Like, Mark Gay came out and said that. I'm not buying it. England are the better team. They've got, despite only having one World Cup, they've actually got a World Cup. Like, yeah, I think England are still the better squad. They've got the better team, the better manager, better players. But we'll see. The conditions obviously favour Mexico and they're more used to it, but yeah, I'm not really buying the hype maybe as others are. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but we'll wait and see what happens. Luca Dean, I'm not sure if he starts. I'd probably avoid the French left-backs. That includes Theo Hernandez as well. I'd be more keen on buying Barcola in the midfield, but even with that one, there's a chance of rotation there. Hi, Dylan. Thoughts on this team? Emi Martinez, Pickford, Hakimi, Upamecano, Medina, Cucurella, Munoz, Dembele, Vinicius Jr., Bruno Guimaraes, Saibari, Manzambi, Kane, Messi, Mbappe. Very solid. I like the look of it. My only concern is Medina. There is a chance that Tagliafico starts the next game because he was subbed off in extra time due to cramp and he was feeling his calf. And I think he was also partly at fault for the first goal they conceded to Cape Verde. So I think Tagliafico will start the next game, to be fair. So that's why I'm quite open to selling him instead. What do you think about spending more on another premium player and getting a really cheap one as a filler? Depends on which premium player we're talking about and the filler in question. But yeah, in some cases, it can work, like Manzambi, for example, and then having Kane up front. Some people are looking to balance things out, so having Oyarzabal or Quinones instead of Kane, and then they can go for Elise in the midfield. So it just depends on the players in question. Dembele for Yamal. I'd only sell Dembele if reliable reports indicate he's going to be benched, and at the moment, I haven't seen one say that at the moment. I've seen a few predicted lineups without him, but that doesn't mean he's definitely going to be benched. Luis Diaz or Trossard? It's a very close call. I'd lean towards Trossard. Please advise for two underrated defenders. Ezri Konsa, he qualifies for the scouting bonus. And I would say Romero from Argentina. Hey Dylan, would you bring in Hakimi for either Munoz or Konsa? I'd probably bring him in for Munoz, actually. Also thoughts on Pulisic to Saibari. I highlight Pulisic as probably my favourite American asset for this match day. He's had a relatively poor tournament so far when it comes to goal contributions, and I do prefer Saibari for what it's worth. So I think in terms of transfers, it does make sense to bring in Hakimi for Daniel Munoz, especially if you've got Manzambi, because it prevents that clash you have towards the end of the match day, and you can't sub out Manzambi or Munoz, so your choice is basically to leave one on the bench or just have both of them start and hope for the best, really. But you have a very good chance of having one player essentially blank if you are making substitutions by the end of the match day with that Manzambi-Munoz clash. So let me know your thoughts on that one. But yeah, best goalkeeper under 4 million. I mean, are we looking at Mustafa from Egypt? I mean, I don't think I'd be going for him, to be fair. I'd probably say... yeah, under 4 million. Yeah, Fries and Crepo are over the threshold, so you're kind of limited with that one. Obviously, the big nations aren't going to have cheap goalkeepers. Mexico as well, Rangel 4.3. Actually, Rangel's 3.9. Yeah, Rangel could be the one, but I think England will eliminate them. So, yeah, it's probably going to be Rangel. I mean, they haven't conceded a goal in this tournament. They deserve credit for that. I think that's the kind of basic answer, because with Mustafa, that would be a huge upset if Egypt knock out Argentina. Obviously, we saw that almost happen yesterday with Cape Verde. But yeah, it's going to be Rangel for me. I don't think Medina will start. Doma says Saibari all the way. Yeah, I prefer Saibari over Diaz here, Francisco. FPL Rohits, good to see you. Hey mate, should I sell Bellingham if he is the only route to get Saibari and Hakimi? And would you sell Cucurella? I'd probably keep Cucurella. I think Spain-Portugal could be quite low scoring and a very cagey match. Bellingham is still a good asset in the midfield, but if that's the only way you can get Saibari and Hakimi, I'd probably do it. What do you all think about spending more on another premium? Yeah, that was covered. I need more context for that question. Yeah, I think Morocco would be in the top 4, but ultimately Argentina and France would be the top 2 nations when it comes to clean sheet odds this week. It annoys me when people say that the World Cup is rigged for Argentina. It's also false, because even for the last World Cup, if the World Cup was rigged for Argentina, why did it concede 2 penalties in the final? Why did the Netherlands game go to, 103 minutes when there was 10 minutes added on, which was already way too much? I could go through so many examples, but let the haters keep crying. CR7 take. You can never rule out Cristiano Ronaldo, and it was a great goal he scored against Croatia. Obviously, that was offside, and then he scored the penalty. I think against Spain, Ronaldo is capable of scoring, but yeah, I think it's a difficult one. Ultimately, when you've got Messi, Kane, and Mbappe, who all have better fixtures, I'd rather go in that direction. And you could save money there with Oyarzabal, and I personally think Spain are more likely to go through than Portugal. You've also got Quiñones, which some people have mentioned, and Imbolo, depending on which teams you're backing to go through. Luis Suarez. I think Ronaldo's probably ranked higher than some of them, and maybe even over Quiñones, for example, but there's also the budget factor that comes into play. I don't think I'd go for Cristiano Ronaldo, to be honest. Doma says the truth can be annoying sometimes. Sell Haaland to fund moves in the midfield and defence, or keep him. I mean, Haaland's a goal machine. That Brazil defence isn't great. We're going to see a nice clash, though, between him and Gabriel again. That's a really good rivalry we have in the Premier League. But I think in this case, you either sell him to one of Messi, Kane, and Mbappe, whoever you're missing, or I think you sell him to a cheaper option like Oyarzabal and then spread the funds elsewhere. That can allow you to buy Hakimi, Saibari, and other options I've talked about this week. Declan Rice is fit, but he's suffering a lot of pain at the moment, and that's a big concern for Arsenal going into next season, and for England as well. Yeah, I think Rice is being pushed to the very limit, and I'm a bit concerned about that one. So I think Rice will start against Mexico, but that could have big repercussions for future rounds if England were to go through. Thoughts on Arias? Well, he scored the winning goal yesterday against Ghana. He's got a few goal contributions this tournament, but I think with Colombia, it's still Diaz in the midfield. He's been a bit underwhelming. James Rodriguez has been terrible in terms of goals and assists so far. I think Munoz is the best Colombian asset overall. With Arias, I'm not completely against it. Like, for example, with a wild card, or if you have the ability to sell Manzambi to Arias, I wouldn't really mind it so much, but I still think Manzambi is the better player or better World Cup fantasy asset in isolation. But it also comes down to your prediction of who wins this game and who advances to the next round to face Argentina or Egypt. Guys, believe me, Brahim Diaz and Olmo. Okay, yeah, they could definitely have an impact. They are moments players. I still think Saibari and Yamal are better options in their respective midfields. And to cover the Spain attack, I think Oyarzabal is comfortably the best option right now. Yamal and Zico, or Guimaraes and KDB? I'm not so sure about KDB. That's why I'd probably just go for the Yamal pick, even though I don't like Zico necessarily. We get 4 free transfers this week and the next. Then we get 5 for the semi-finals and 6 for the World Cup final. It's all covered in my How to Play World Cup Fantasy Guide. Ariel says, Arief, want to ask, playoff for the third place is the same match week as the final? Yes, it's the same match week. We had this in the last World Cup as well. So the deadline will not be for the World Cup final. It will be for the third place playoff the day before. And that was Morocco versus Croatia last time out. And obviously we had Argentina winning against France the day after on the 18th of December 2022. So yeah, it's the same as last time. The third place playoff is counted for match day 8. So you can make substitutions, but when it comes to captaincy, you can only switch it once. The same goes for match day 7, which is why for the Maximum Captainship, my recommendation all along has been to use that booster on match day 7 or 8. What do you all think about spending more on another premium? Yeah, I keep seeing this question. I don't know what you're on about, mate. 134 points last match day, 4k overall. Do you think I go safe or risk it if I want to reach 1k? Keep doing what you're doing. So I think it's very natural at this point when you're at a good rank to sort of overthink and have this sort of dilemma. Do I go safe or do I go aggressive? I think just keep playing the game the way you have been doing it all along, and that way you'll have no regrets. Now, ultimately, if you're asking me about the sort of balanced approach, you can have a differential or two, maybe even 3 or 4, but don't go differential for the sake of it, because, especially with the captaincy as well, by the way, which is a bit different in this game because you can switch from game to game. But when you've got Mbappe, for example, versus a French defender, don't captain the French defender to be different. You know, that's the sort of thing you've got to be logical about. But with the clean sheet shield active this week, if you're going in that direction, you can, in some cases, go for Hakimi captain over Saibari as one prominent example. So, yeah, it's a good question. And obviously 134 points is good for the last match day. Really good rank as well. But I think you've got to keep doing what you've been doing all along. I don't think Medina will start. Risk, bro. Later, there won't be anything to risk because most people have the same players. That's a good point. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But once again, it comes down to choosing your battles wisely and not just being differential for the sake of it. Hi, Dylan, start Kane or Jorge Sanchez or both. Start the player who plays first. You don't need to bench one for the other. It's all different in World Cup Fantasy, just like the Champions League and the Euros. Check out my how to play guide and you'll see all the details there. But essentially, you want to have those who play later in the match day on your bench. That's why I've got the likes of Messi on my bench, which sounds crazy, but once my lowest scoring players have all featured, I can take them off for the likes of Messi and the other Argentina and Colombia players. Dembele, Elise, and Bellingham versus Swiss midfielder. I think for this match day, probably Elise over Dembele, but it's very close. Bellingham versus a Swiss midfielder, Bellingham. Thoughts on saving the clean sheet shield for the next game week with double France, double Spain, Portugal, and triple Argentina for defence? I'm not against that. I think match day 6 works very well on paper for the clean sheet shield, but I'll be honest with you, I'm probably going to use it now. That's my current plan. Medina's not injured, but he suffered from cramp in extra time yesterday. Dylan, Riyad or Diop? Probably Riyad because he's cheaper, but it depends on the context. Like, what could you do with the extra 0.6 million at your disposal? And if you can make a promising upgrade from it, then go for Chaddy Riyad. Sell one, Lamine or Bellingham for Elise. It's a very close call. I'd rather sell Bellingham, but that could go either way. And he has been the better pick so far. Dylan, solo he usado el comodín del jugador 12. ¿Cuál debería usar esta jornada? Bueno, depende de tu equipo. Si tienes muchos problemas, es mejor usar el wildcard, el comodín ese. Sí, creo que a largo plazo, con el Clean Sheet Shield, por ejemplo, de las vallas invictas, sí, si no usas el wildcard ahora, yo usaría la de clasificación ahora. Vallas invictas en jornada 6, pero también depende de tu equipo y con el wildcard. Quizás con esos dos lo voy a mezclar. Así que el wildcard en la jornada 6, clean sheet en la jornada 7 y del capitán, jornada 8. But considering that maybe I'd have to change 2 Moroccan players and also Trossard, would it be smart to have Rabiot in, thinking for the future? Yeah, but with Rabiot, is he going to get as many goals and assists as Trossard? If you think that's the case, then go for it. Obviously, having French coverage makes sense, but it's also about the quality. With France, you've got Mbappe, Dembele, Elise, and then you're looking at Saliba, or Upamecano, Magnan. I think all of them would be better ways of covering France than Rabiot. Yeah, I've covered the Medina injury already. I'm not going to go into that too many times now. Lewis Mark says Mexico 2, England 0. I disagree, but we'll wait and see what happens there. What about McAllister instead of Trossard? Well, to be honest, I think McAllister was quite poor yesterday, and there is a chance, albeit maybe slim, that he's benched against Egypt. Maybe we see Barco come in and Argentina shake things up a little bit. I think it's needed. But the game yesterday reminded me so much of the Saudi Arabia match from 4 years ago, and hopefully it's the wake-up call that Argentina needed, because they were quite comfortable up until now. They suffered for the first time in this World Cup, and they can't take anything for granted. But yeah, Belgium were very fortunate to progress, but Trossard was great against New Zealand, and he was very clutch against Senegal as well. I'd probably go for Trossard instead. I'm guessing you mean which chip, Lucas. Yeah, clean sheet shield for me, but if you've got the qualification booster or 12th man, I'd prioritize those over the clean sheet shield. Belgium are going home after this round. I think it's possible. I think USA could go through. Either way, whoever goes through will probably lose the next round to Spain or Portugal. What do you think about Rayan? Not really feeling it. I think for Brazil, Vinicius Jr. or Bruno Guimaraes in the midfield, Matheus Cunha up front, and a differential defender like Douglas Santos. I wouldn't necessarily have 3 or 4 Brazil players, but that's the sort of order I'd rank them. Maybe Cunha over Bruno Guimaraes, but I also wouldn't have Cunha over Messi, Kane, or Mbappe. Bruno Guimaraes or Trossard? It's a close one. Bruno Guimaraes is more consistent. He can get tackle points. He can also get big chances created, and he's got a couple of goal contributions in this tournament, so not an easy one. But I think Trossard for me, simply because I've got Vinicius Jr. already. I'm a bit wary about having 2 midfielders out of the 5 spots available from the same country, with the exception of France, because if you can find a way to have Dembele and Elise, I think you're in a great position, assuming they both start. Yep, I agree. Rangel from Mexico is the best goalkeeper at 4 million or below. Hey Dylan, is Medina surely starting? I don't think so. I covered this earlier. I think he's going to be on the bench for Tagliafico. Some reports from Argentinian journalists actually suggest that, and I'm not too surprised. Medina suffered from cramp, so it is what it is. I mean, I've been asked about Medina quite a lot, and I might end up keeping him, and it's not necessarily out of choice, but I think there's a good chance that he'll be on the bench next game. Yeah, I think Team Ream will start. Hey Dylan, who would you pick, Vargas or John Arias? Close call. Probably Arias just because he's cheaper, and I think Colombia will go through. But it's close, very close. If it was Manzambi, maybe I'd lean towards him just because he's even cheaper than both of them. England will win, but I would sell Kane and Diaz to make funds for Elise, Cunha and Saibari. I'm just very uneasy about selling Kane, but I get your logic there. The ceiling against Mexico might not be too high. Douglas Santos or Chadi Riyad? Very close. I think Douglas Santos. Do unused transfers carry over to the next round? No. That only happens in the group stages, not in the knockouts. Luca Dean, Emi Martinez, or Mañan, Lisandro Martinez? I'd go for the second. I don't even know if Dean starts. I think it'll be Theo Hernandez, and if it's not the case this week, it could be the one for the next game if France go through, which I think they will. So go for Mañan and Lisandro. So yeah, some of these questions I've answered already. I'll go to the new ones. Who is a better option, Brahim Diaz or Barcola? I'd lean towards Barcola, even though he's a bigger risk. Transfer out Kane or Yamal? I'd rather sell Yamal. Cheers, Dylan. Got one transfer, so may go Tagliafico or Martinez. I'd rather go Martinez. Hola, Dylan. Sí, ya respondí a esta pregunta, gracias. Let's go for some more. Transfer out, is that Nemecha, Munoz, O'Reilly, and bring in Chadi Riyad, Saibari, Santos? Looks decent. I'm not a massive fan of Brazil defensively, but if you are needing a 4.3 million defender or below, I think that ticks the box. Yeah, and you've got Chadi Riyad as well, so fair enough. I want to take Vargas from Switzerland. Who should I put with 7.5? Already have Pulisic and Saibari. I think both Doué and Barcola are rotation risks. We have normally seen the left-hand side for France change in duos, so the left-back and left wingers are kind of complementary to each other. Ultimately, though, I think we could see something a little bit different, where Theo Hernandez starts with Barcola and Doué's on the bench, but we have seen different duos on the left-hand side for France anyway, and that could continue because of their chemistry. But yeah, I think at 7.5 or below, you could consider Bruno Guimaraes or Trossard. Rangel will get a clean sheet against us. I'm not sure if you're trying to like reverse jinx, but we'll wait and see what happens there. Ultimately, I just want to have a fun game and enjoy the most of it, because on paper, yeah, that should be one of the most interesting games of the round of 16. Is it worth using? Oh, it's in Spanish. ¿Vale la pena usar la ficha de jugador 12 con Dembele? Creo que sí, pero hay algunas alineaciones que no tienen a Dembele y dicen que puede tener, bueno, un resto, va a estar en el banco. No sé si es verdad, pero es posible. Creo que Olise es un poquito más seguro en ese equipo. Sell Yamal for Saibari, only if you can fund other moves with that. you know, the extra funds. I like Sabari a lot, and I probably prefer him over Yamal, but the only reason I'm considering selling the Spanish superstar is because it gives me enough money to buy Hakimi, Saliba, and make some other upgrades elsewhere. Canada 1, Morocco 3, says Lewis Mark. Vargas or John Arias covered. I'd lean towards Arias. Sell Yamal for Saibari, yes. Interesting take. Like I said, I'd only go for it if you can make upgrades elsewhere. FPL Kevy says, hey mate, I own O'Reilly, Dest, Cucurella, Munoz, and Lisandro Martinez in defense. I kind of want Upamecano or a French defender. Yes, Saliba could also be considered. If possible, I'd sell Dest for Saliba / Upamecano. Bruno Guimaraes or Trossard, I'd lean towards Trossard. I covered your question already, Lucas. I'm using the clean sheet shield right now, but it's not locked in. Get Upamecano if you can for Dest or O'Reilly, in my opinion. Yeah, Saliba also works. Not much difference, only higher ownership. Who should I swap Kimmich and Nemecha with? Depends on your budget and which players you've got already, but I'd prioritize France defenders if possible, like Saliba or Upamecano. In the midfield, Saibari if you can. Baina in for Manzambi, can't afford Trossard, Tielemans. Yeah, Baina looks decent, but the fixture isn't great against Portugal. I'd probably keep Manzambi. I haven't used my wild card. Should I use it? If you've got a lot of transfers to make, fires to put out, even question marks like Medina, who I don't think will start the next game, which is my current opinion, and it's based on the information available, then yeah, but it depends really. You've got 4 free transfers right now. If you feel that's enough to sort of have a really good and competitive round of 16 squad, then you can use something else instead, like the qualification booster or the clean sheet shield. If you have the 12th man, I'd probably prioritize that and use it as early as possible, but I don't know which chips you have remaining, so it makes it difficult to answer definitively. Riyad, Lisandro Yamal, or Trossard, Hakimi, Danilo? Probably Chadi, Riyad, Lisandro, and Yamal. I've only got 2 chips left, the clean sheet shield and the maximum captain. Thoughts on these transfers? Bellingham, Konsa, Kimmich, Medina out, and Saliba, Hakimi, Molina, Saibari in. Looks good. If you can afford it, I'd pick Lisandro Martinez over Molina, but that is a bit of a personal preference and a bit of a nitpick. It's a -3 wasting in this game. There's no -4s. Crepo to Manyan or Pulisic to Saibari. Probably Crepo to Manyan. And yeah, 12th man Messi looks good, as we discussed in the Discord server. I'm not sure if Dean will start. I think there's a chance that Theo Hernandez will instead. I'd rather avoid it. Yeah, Jules Koundé's okay, I guess, but I don't know. Like, there's not enough attacking threat from him. So is he worth the extra 0.1 million over Koundé, over Upamecano or Saliba? Not necessarily. So yeah, it's ultimately down to you. I don't really see a massive difference between the 3 of them, to be fair. In terms of scouting bonus, none of them will qualify, so yeah, it just comes down to personal preference. I'd go for a centre-back, personally. Who are the best scouting bonus players? I think Konsa could be decent in that defence. I think in the forward line, dare I say, I think Mbolo, if you're backing Switzerland to go through. Obviously, you got Vargas as well. Would I necessarily go for him? I'm not so sure, but he has been good in this tournament. I think for Colombia, looking at Arias, Luis Suarez could be underrated. He hasn't had a good tournament, to be fair, but 1% ownership. The downside is it could be Argentina in the quarterfinals if Colombia go through, and if Argentina also get the job done. I think with other scouting bonus, Barkler definitely appeals, but the minutes are a huge concern here. He's got 3.3% ownership. Even off the bench, he can definitely do something, of course. Alex Baena, people have mentioned. I think that's decent. Over the last 2 match days, he's done very well. Goal against Uruguay, although that was mainly thanks to the goalkeeper, Muslera. And against Austria, he got the assist. But yeah, Alex Baena would be my pick from Spain. Yeah, those are some good options for you overall, and hopefully that helps. Lewis Mark says, no reverse psychology from me, Dylan. I truly believe that Tuchel has selected players that shouldn't be there. Don't trust them at all. Yeah, I mean, Jed Spencer's a prime example. You could say Madueke too, to be fair. Yeah, and some players who were left out. I know Palmer and Foden have had terrible seasons, but especially in the case of Palmer, we saw him scoring a Euros final. Yeah, he can still make a difference in the bigger stage. So there were definitely some shocks in the squad selection. Sell Dest or O'Reilly? I'd rather sell Dest, to be fair. Sell Yamal for Dembele? I prefer Dembele, but there is a chance he's on the bench this week. I don't think that'll be the case, but it's a possibility. Can we expect Colombia to keep a clean sheet? They can do it. Will they? I've gone for 2-1 Colombia in my prediction. Hola Dylan, entre Yamal y Olise, ¿qué prefieres? Olise para esta jornada. Morocco's penalty taker, I think should be Saibari. Rankel or Simon? Simon. Sub Yamal for Saibari. I'd only sell him if you can make big upgrades elsewhere. That was not hype, but reality. England players will suffer either win or losing today. Well, I think they'll suffer a little bit, but I think England will win. Yeah, for me, Elise over Yamal. Ahmed says, my team is Mañan, Martinez, Hakimi, Cucurella, Dest, Medina, Munoz, Tillman, Arias, Elise, Vinicius Jr., Saibari, Kane, Mbappe, and Messi. Dembele is the 12th player. Yeah, I like the squad. There is a chance Dembele doesn't start. I think he will, but I saw one or two predicted lineups that don't have him in there. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe just to give him a bit of a rest, but it's the knockout stages, to be honest. He is first choice for France. Good squad overall. I think my biggest concerns are Dest, Tillman, and possibly Arias, but he is scouting bonus just like Tillman, so that could still work. If you had 12th man active, who would you pick? I'd go for Elise, personally, from the ones you're saying. Dembele, I think, but he is a bit of a risk. I don't have the exact clean sheet odds. I'll have a look for you, but I'm pretty sure Argentina and France would be top two. I think I've got him here. So yeah, France are first with 64.5%. Argentina have 60. Morocco are third. Colombia fourth. And England make up the top five with Spain, Brazil, Mexico, and Switzerland completing the rest of the pack. So Paraguay are bottom, unsurprisingly. Egypt second bottom. Norway, Portugal, Canada are the bottom five. Yeah, you've got Mexico, Switzerland, USA, Belgium, sort of mid-table. I might show this on screen. These are taken by Fantasy Football Scout. So let's go to this here. These are the clean sheet odds for you. This might be quite helpful to you. So as you can see, France are top. Hi Dylan, do you think selling Yamal is a bit risky? If Spain get through, they'd face either Belgium or US in the quarters, which on paper looks like a more favourable fixture. It is risky, but ultimately, I don't want to sell Kane, which is also a risk. And if I want to buy Hakimi, Saliba, or just make upgrades like Saibari and Fenerbahce, I need a cash cow, and that's where Yamal comes into play. I wouldn't be so against it if I could bring in Elise, because I'm getting a French attacker, so that looks great. But it would be a bit problematic, and I wouldn't be able to afford Hakimi simultaneously. So, yeah, budget is a bit limited in this case. In UCL Fantasy, for example, I built up so much team value. I ended up having over 110 million to spend. And yeah, I don't have that same luxury in World Cup Fantasy here. I was thinking of using Clean Sheet Shield this round and 12th man next round. I'd swap them in your case. I'd use 12th man now and the Clean Sheet Shield on match day 6. But yeah, not a bad idea. Bruno Guimaraes and Trossard is the same decision I'm making. Belgium, however, always end up disappointing and have played really poorly in this tournament. Yeah, the thing is, I'd argue Norway is a better team than USA as an opponent, but yeah, Brazil, you backed them to go through. They haven't been great in this tournament, but they've done enough. They deserve to be where they are. And USA have also been quite solid, to be fair, so they could definitely knock out Belgium here. But Trossard's been good in the last 2 matches for me. Dylan, soy el que ha usado el jugador 12. Mi equipo está bien, solo tengo 2 eliminados, entonces el wildcard no sería necesario usarlo. En ese caso, creo que es mejor usar el de la clasificación ahora, a Qualification Booster, y después bueno, dependiendo de tu equipo, puede ser el wildcard y si no vas a usar el clean sheet shield de vallas invictas. Pero para el capitán usaría eso en la jornada 7 o 8 y en el contexto que tienes vos, con 4 chips que te faltan, creo que jornada 8 es mejor para el, bueno, del capitán, maximum captain. Which match day round is the best to start going with more differentials to attempt to gain rank? Well, now's a decent chance to do so as well. But yeah, it's just going to become even more pushed in one direction where people's teams seem very similar. But you'd be surprised in terms of combination of certain players, it can still be a little bit different. And also, when it comes to chip usage, I think that's what can separate the engaged managers with those who are quite casual in World Cup fantasy. But it's a good question. I think now is still a good time to have differentials, but don't force them for the sake of it. That's my only sort of, yeah, my 2 cents on it. So, Chad Riyad on the bench, it seems. I'll go through the lineups now. Thanks for pointing that out. So let's go to Canada and Morocco. We'll start off with one of the host nations, even though they're playing in Houston. So Crepo in goal, Johnston, De Fulgaroles, who's back in the starting 11, Bombito, Laria, Sigor, Estuquiao, Jonathan David, Olawase, Buchanan, and Ali Ahmed. Now for Morocco, we've got Bono, Hakimi, Mazraoui, Issa Diop, and Hauhau, Bouadi, Bouani, Saibari, El Kanous, El Enyaoui? Yeah, I butchered that one. It doesn't matter. Brahim Diaz as well. El Ayanui. I think that's better. But yeah, no Chadi Riyad. If we check the benches now, yeah, Chadi Riyad is on the bench. I don't know why I'm speaking like that, but there you go. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So Chadi Riyad is benched. That's the big news from the early lineups here, which have been confirmed. It's on the FIFA website. And let me know if the FIFA app is still not working for you. If that's the case, go to the website. That can be on your phone, tablet, or yeah, on your laptop, if you will, computer, whatever it might be. But go to the browser and go to the play zone on the FIFA website. So if I revisit my polls, yeah, Lise, Lisandro, and Riyad was the winner. But Riyad has to be revisited because he is on the bench here. So 4 million left over. Bloody hell. I mean, I could go for Hal, who is 3.5 million. Scouting bonus. Very cheap defender. So if you are looking for a really cheap defender, that's the one I go for. He's starting right now. Sorry about that. Over Chadi Riyad. Bloody hell. So yeah. That could be the way to go about it. And it's so close. I could stick with Molina then, or I go for Tagliafico, but yeah, I do prefer Lisandro Martinez, to be honest. Lisandro Martinez, and then I can keep Dest, although that's not really what I want to do. O'Reilly would be okay. And then, yeah. I mean, it's not Hakimi, but it allows me to bring in Michael Elise in the process. But obviously, I'm 0.2 million over. And that's why I could just settle for Molina over Lisandro Martinez. I don't think Medina will start for Argentina in the next game. So yeah, thanks Giuseppe and the others for pointing that out. And also Falcon. I am going to have a look and see if I can get any Argentina lineups for you. Hey Dylan, do you think Saka will start over Madueke? I think so, but the big question mark about Saka is the fitness, because that's the main reason why he hasn't started most of these games in the World Cup. He's clearly the better player compared to Madueke, but we've seen this for months at Arsenal as well. He just can't stay fit. Honest opinions on Quinones. He's had a good World Cup tournament, but I think he'll blank against England, and I think Mexico will be eliminated. But obviously they've got the host advantage. They've had a good tournament so far. No goals conceded. But I think with Quinones, I just wouldn't go for him over Kane, Messi, Mbappe, and even with the likes of Oyarzabal and Cunha, they'd be ahead of him in the pecking order. I have only clean sheet shield and maximum captain. I'd rather use the clean sheet shield now, or on match day 6, I'd use the maximum captain for 7 or 8. That's the way I'd go about it. Is that Pepe? Pepe for Balogun. So if you aren't able to go for more expensive forwards like Kane, Messi, Mbappe, even Oyarzabal and Cunha, you could go for Quinones, for example. I mean, I'm not completely against it, but I think he's going to blank. Well, he's starting, mate. He's literally starting. Relax. Calma, calma. Chadi Riyad's on the bench. How is starting, so at 3.5, that could be my way of bringing in Elise, whilst also selling the likes of Medina, and then bringing in Molina in this case. But what I could just do is keep Serginho Dest, and then go for Lisandro Martinez. So this needs to be revisited now. Yeah, so I don't have enough money to do exactly what I want. This is the alternative set of transfers, a bit more balanced. So Hakimi and Saliba in that defense. But I've also got Medina, who is going to be a concern here. Trossard, Saibari. Yeah, it would have to be a -3 if I get rid of Medina, I think. 4.2. I'm really close to getting Molina. But yeah, it'd be a -3 and I'm 0.2 over the bank if I also want Saliba and Hakimi. So that is the way I'd go about it. So I'm going to end this poll and start a new one. But most of you did vote for Elise and Lisandro. It does include Chadi Riyad, who is on the bench here tonight. I think Hakimi is definitely worth the extra millions, but a 3-point family and Moroccan defender, who I'd probably want to sell for match day 6 anyway, but just being that cheap, qualifying for the scouting bonus, I think that's an opportunity there to also fund Elise, Dembele, and all these premiums I've talked about. Shame about Riyad. I need a cheap defender to make my move, so I'll have to gamble on Medina. Or you go for How, the direct replacement for Chadi Riyad. Which striker or cuál delantero después de Messi pondrías de Argentina en World Fantasy? Ninguno. No me gusta cómo está jugando Julián Álvarez, y Lautaro tuvo momentos contra Austria, jugó bastante bien, pero contra Jordania hizo un penal y no mucho más. Contra Cabo Verde creo que todos, salvo Messi y Lisandro Martínez, fueron bastante flojos. Y me preocupa bastante, pero ojalá que van a mejorar y hacer cambios para el próximo partido. Hi Dylan, Vinicius o Yamal? Vinicius. Dembele, Yamal, Vinicius, choose 2. Dembele and Vinicius. Dembele is a bigger risk when it comes to minutes compared to the others. There's a chance that he's on the bench on match day 5, but I think he will start. Maximum captain, 7 or 8. I've said it all along. Check out my chip strategy video for the full details. I have qualification booster and clean sheet shield left. Qualification booster now, clean sheet shield next round. Hola, ¿a quién elegirías? Vinicius o Yamal? Vinicius. Hola también. Hi Dylan, hope you're doing well. If you had David, would you prioritize get rid of him? Probably, yeah. You're quite limited unless you've got a lot of money in the bank, but Quinones could definitely appeal to you. Mbolo, Luis Suarez. I'd probably favor Luis Suarez out of the lot right now. And Cordoba is injured. Dylan, if I do Haaland to Oyarzabal and bring in Saibari, Hakimi, I won't afford any keeper better than Bono, but I don't want to triple up on Morocco. Yeah, I wouldn't triple up on Morocco either. With match day 6 in mind, I think they'll face France, so yeah. Good point there. Maybe in that case, do you have Pickford? I would consider that instead. Yeah. I mean, he's 0.1 million more expensive than Bono, but maybe you could go for Pickford instead. I wouldn't say Kane is an absolute must, but I'm not selling him with the form he's in. 5 goals in this World Cup already. I back him to score more than most players except Mbappe and possibly Messi on this match day. So, yeah, I think Kane's a keep. I accidentally put Riyad. Should I risk 3 points and get a new one? I've got only 4 million. I don't think it's worth the hit at this point. I'd probably just keep him and make the substitution if needed, which is probably going to happen. Saliba or Upamecano? Saliba, but Upamecano has slightly lower ownership. In terms of goal threat, maybe a bit similar. You could argue Upamecano is better in that regard. Hey Dylan, having Manzambi and Munoz playing the last game against each other a concern? I mentioned this earlier. It is a concern because you either leave one on the bench or you start both of them and you're hoping that they both get attacking returns, which is possible, but unlikely. Why not Luka Dean? Because he's a rotation risk. If you see Theo Hernandez start tonight, don't be surprised. Question, when using the clean sheet booster, do defenders get double points for those clean sheet booster points when captained? I'm curious because qualification points went doubled when you captain. They actually are, from what I've seen. So for the clean sheet shield, they still count towards your double points in the captaincy, unlike the qualification booster, which can cause a lot of confusion, by the way. I've only used my 12th man so far. Okay, so it depends on your situation. Do you have a lot of fires to put out right now? If you're happy with your team with 4 free transfers, then I would use the qualification booster now, either the wild card or clean sheet shield in the next round, preferably the wild card, and then clean sheet shield matchday 7 and maximum captain matchday 8. Pepe is projected to start instead of Balogun as he got a red card, so should I get him? I'm just not really feeling it. Like with USA, sure, they could score plenty of goals against Belgium. I've gone for a 2-2 in my prediction, but I'm not entirely sure it'll be Pepe scoring or it's going to be Pulisic or Tillman or somebody else. I think Pulisic would be my sort of preference there, despite his poor tournament so far when it comes to goal contributions. But yeah, I'd probably rather cover a different attack like Colombia's with Luis Suarez. That's just my 2 cents on it though. How is booking a transfer in? Every possibility Riyadh comes back in versus France. I'd be selling them anyway, mate. And I'll be honest, I'm looking to buy Hakimi regardless. If I buy him in, I'm going to sell him against France regardless. The good thing about that one is you've got more money to play with in terms of selling him to any premium you want. So you're not limited with your replacements for Hakimi. In this case, it's different, but yeah, it's a good point you're making. Having said that, it doesn't really impact my plans that much because I want a Moroccan defender now and not for matchday 6 should they go through. Unless Paraguay do the unthinkable, which is very unlikely. Molina nailed? No. Oyarzabal to Cunha? No, I'd keep Oyarzabal. Hi Dylan, who would you pick between the 12th man and clean sheet shield this week? 12th man. And apart from Messi, Kane and Mbappe, I think the next best options are Elise and Dembele. I have only clean sheet shield and maximum captain. I covered that, thank you. Elise over Yamal? Yes. Yeah, I covered that, Kimps. Quite a lot of times, I'm not going to lie to you. And you're still asking the question. Wouldn't afford pick for those moves, 0.1 short. That's a shame. Yeah, I'm not so sure then. I'd just rather do Haaland to Kane, if I'm being honest with you. Quinones is decent, but I'm not sure if I'd buy him in now. I think the time to buy him has probably passed. Maybe I'm wrong about that and he scores against England, but I think he's going to blank. Should I go over Michele and Alex Baena or Munoz and Rayan? I don't like Michele in World Cup Fantasy. I think Belgium are very poor defensively. I'd probably go for Munoz and Rayan, even though I prefer Baena in isolation. Hey Dylan, keep Freeman or Medina? Well, I would have said Medina, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think he starts. At least Freeman probably will. So, yeah, based on that, I'd probably sell Medina instead. So we have just over an hour left. How cap? I'm definitely not captaining him over Saibari. The only debate for me is whether it's Hakimi or Saibari. But I said this before, with certain nations, and Morocco could be one of them, if you're activating the clean sheet shield now, that would make a defender captain more appealing than it would be normally. I prefer Elise over Dembele this week just because of the minutes and the potential concerns about Dembele starting or not. 12th man out of Yamal, Bellingham, Haaland. Probably Yamal. Molina qualifies for scouting bonus. True. But there is a chance that Montiel starts, even though he's not great either. I'm going to try and get an Argentina predicted lineup for you and see what the probable starting 11 is, because that could also have a massive impact. I'm going to check a very reliable Argentinian journalist and see if he said anything, but yeah, I think he's just mainly covered just the press conferences and stuff and doing interviews, so... Yeah, I don't have anything from Argentinian sources at the moment. Yeah, I'm still having a look. Let's see, is that... Okay, there's an ESPN journalist. He says Medina is expected to be the change at left back, so Tagliafico would come in. He is quoting another Argentinian journalist who hasn't posted anything himself, but yeah, it looks like Tagliafico for Medina is the likely change. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get too much in regards to Argentina, to be honest. I prefer Pulisic over Brahim Diaz, but not by much. Morocco are more likely to go through than USA, but for the next round, I think both USA and Morocco will be eliminated. Yeah, Diop's not bad, but he's 4.5 million. The reason why I'm considering Hal is because he's 3.5, and it allows me to do other moves as well. But yeah, in this case, yeah, I can't even afford it. Yes, not great. Maybe I'll not go for Trossard then. So let's see, Medina in. What else could we do? Yeah, even with Hal instead of Hakimi, it's not looking too great here either. I'll keep these transfer plans ready just in case, but I'm going to start locking things in fairly soon. But yeah, I just don't see Medina starting. Molina would be the preference here. Nah, I don't want to keep the match. He's eliminated. I might need to go without a French defender or Hakimi. That could be how I go about things. Let's put Saibari in there. And 7.9. Not too far off Bellingham, but not quite enough. I could go for Baena. I could go for plenty of midfielders. Not too far off Diaz either. Luis Diaz wouldn't be too shabby. But yeah, that's with Diop. Could go for Barclay or Doué. Obviously no Elise here. That's why I'm leaning towards these transfers. So I'll bring in Hal, who's starting over Chadi Riyad this week, and I'd be selling him for Matchday 6 anyway. I can bring in Lisandro Martinez and just avoid the Argentinian headaches defensively. I would have Munoz and Manzambi, but I've also got Elise and Dembele simultaneously. So this looks like the best set of transfers. Obviously, Saibari will come in regardless of what I do. But yeah, not having Hakimi again isn't great. Yeah, I think Jimenez is on penalties for Mexico. Yeah, Chadi Riyad's on the bench. I covered the lineups earlier. Who did you replace Saliba with? Well, no, in this case, I'm looking to bring in Saliba or a French defender, but I'm also trying to find a way to get the other moves going, like Saibari. In an ideal world, I'd also bring in Hakimi. The problem with this is that I can't get Molina as well or another Argentinian defender without taking a hit, and even then, it's not enough. I'm over budget, so yeah. Let's see if I can bring in Dest or I keep him. Then bring in Hakimi. Then I've got 6.5 million in the bank. but I'm not a big fan of the midfielders at that price and below. So, yeah, Bruno Guimaraes and Trossard, both above the threshold that I'm looking for. Yeah, it's a big shame. I could go for Arias. Obviously, some people have mentioned him as well. Alex Baena could be decent. Not a guaranteed starter, but he could be all right. That's probably like the next best option, either Arias or Baena. Then 0.5 left in the bank. In that case, that'd be a -3. Let's see if I can do this then. Nah, it's still going to be a -3. Maybe keep O'Reilly. And then Hakimi. Yeah, and I can bring in Saliba. I mean, that's a pretty balanced squad overall. Not perfect. But yeah, that could be decent. So I tried to sum this up in a poll. But that's going to be quite a challenge there. Richard Millichip says, hey, Dylan, Manzambi versus Munoz or Baena to avoid the clash. I'd still rather have Manzambi, but yeah, I get your concern. That's the biggest problem with having Manzambi and Munoz, despite their returns last week. I can play clean sheet chip to help. Also, who do you think is more likely to progress to the quarterfinals? That's true, by the way. That's a point that I haven't mentioned before. Yeah, if you're going for Munoz and Manzambi, well, you can still get a return from both with the clean sheet shield active. Manzambi scores or assists. Munoz still gets the clean sheet points if you've got that active. So, yeah, that's not too shabby. Yeah, who's more likely to progress out of Spain and Switzerland? Spain, in my opinion. I think Spain are a little bit more likely, but I don't think everyone will agree. Luka Dean could be a shout, but he's also a massive rotation risk. Why is Mazraoui so underlooked? You can go from if you want, but the reason why I'm even thinking about Hal or these different options is just because they're cheaper and ultimately all Moroccan defenders, even Hakimi, would be sold if they face France next week, which is very likely. I think that's the projected quarterfinal. It's fair to say Morocco are slight favourites against Canada, and France, I mean, it would take something ridiculous for them not to go through against Paraguay. Dylan, would you sell Haaland or Lamine to free funds? Yamal is better long term. I think Spain will go through to the next round. You can't discount Haaland or Norway, but yeah, it's a difficult one. I talked about possibly selling Haaland to Kane in your case, but it doesn't really do much for you in terms of funding other moves, which is the problem. But yeah, if I had both, I'd probably sell Haaland. Elise, Dembele, both. I'd go for both this week. If I had to pick one, probably Elise. Sell Bellingham. I want to keep him, but he frees up so much cash. It depends who you're selling him for, but I like Bellingham still, even against Mexico. Why 12th man over clean sheet shield? Because the later you use the 12th man, the more difficult games are to predict, the lower scoring they generally are, and you're not going to get as high of a ceiling in most cases that you play that chip. Yeah, with the clean sheet shield, I even talked about using it on Matchday 6, so using it for the quarterfinals isn't a bad idea either. It's all covered, by the way, in my chip strategy guide and in my recent videos too. I delve into the best time to use every single booster, and I made it very clear throughout this stream as well. Hey, should I transfer out Haaland for Kane? I probably would, yeah. I think Kane is still one of the best goal scorers, the most likely to get a goal this week as well, and a great captaincy option for the Mexico-England game. Quick breakdown on the Argentina defense. I think Molina will start right back, Romero, Lisandro Martinez, and Tagliafico. I think Medina will be on the bench. My favourite option is Lisandro Martinez, and yesterday was a great performance by him with a goal and assist, but he's just a nailed-on player there. You can go for Koundé, but I just prefer Saliba and Upamecano. They're 0.1 million cheaper. None of them qualify for the scouting bonus. Saibari isn't great, but he's got 3 goals in this tournament, and ultimately, I prefer him over Trossard and Bruno Guimaraes for this week. Not for the next one, though, against France, which is my opinion. I wouldn't sell Vinicius for Dembele, who could be benched, by the way. I think he will start, but there are a few predicted lineups without Dembele in there. Would I sell David Cunha for a -3? It's a close one. I'm not completely against that. I'd lean towards yes. If you said Kane, Mbappe, or Messi, I'd say go for it for sure. But with this one, it's a bit 50-50. Yeah, Luka Dean, I'm not going to go for him personally. I think Theo Hernandez could start. Yamal, he will haul soon, I feel. Yeah, he was very close against Austria. I think he could score against Portugal or get a big return, so I'm not against that. But I'd rather sell Yamal than Kane, Mbappe, or Messi. Maybe Vinicius Jr. could be sold instead. I mean, that's another debate to have, but yeah, you can't have them all, I'm afraid. Okay, so let's do this poll now. I've answered so many questions here. Yeah, they considered 0 goals, but I think England will score and go through. So, let's go for this one first. So, Saliba. Let's keep O'Reilly in there. Kimi. Baena. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And then this would be Dest, Martinez, Hal, Elise, Shadi Riyad. Okay. This poll will start. Hopefully I haven't messed it up, but that should be quite concise. If you haven't done so already, drop a like. I've answered hundreds of questions, and as usual, I'm pushing my voice to the absolute limit, as I have done for the past month or so with the World Cup fantasy content, and there is more to come before the end of the tournament. I'll be there for every single deadline stream with best wildcard squad videos and also my team selections. I've got 2 chips remaining. The clean sheet shield is active right now, and the plan is to use the maximum captain on 7 or 8. There is a small chance that I delay the clean sheet shield for match day 6, but I'll be honest with you, I could see it being quite useful for this deadline. Thank you, Safir. Much appreciated. Douglas Santos for a punt, or should I change him for someone? Well, look, Brazil might just concede 1 goal, and if you bring him in, he can still give you clean sheet points with the clean sheet shield active, so it depends on the context for your squad, but I don't think Brazil will keep a clean sheet against Norway, but at 4.3 million, and with the scouting bonus, I think he's a decent pick. Just bear in mind, it can be a bit confusing. So if you pick a player and you activate the clean sheet shield, and let's say Brazil concede against Norway, you've got Douglas Santos, that won't count for the scouting bonus, even if he has the clean sheet points for you because of the clean sheet shield booster, but that doesn't count for the scouting bonus. Hopefully that makes sense. But it's still a bit different for the captaincy because those clean sheet shield points still count for the double points with the captaincy. Hopefully that makes sense, but it can be a bit confusing and difficult to follow for people. Yeah, I think so, Safir, but he's not going to give you scouting bonus points there. I think Barkler will start, but it's not a guarantee. I think Jed Spence only starts if Reece James isn't fit enough. Richard says, hey Dylan, I have the exact funds for Pickford, Medina, Vargas and Diaz to Manyan, Hakimi, Saibari and Baena. Yeah, looks good to me. Looks pretty decent. If you don't have Manzambi, I don't mind having him or Arias over Baena, but that looks pretty solid actually. Oh, you cheeky little fucker. Oh yeah, I did put Baena. So, 70% of you are voting for Dest, Lisandro Martinez, Hal, and Elise. Interesting stuff there. I think Elise's the draw. Mazraoui is fine, but it's also about budget. Like, for example, if I had enough money, I wouldn't be going for Hal. I'd just go for Hakimi. But yeah, it's about funding other moves and priorities. So that's why I might end up with this squad instead. My biggest concern with this one is the lack of a French defender. I would like one of them. And it also makes me sort of regret not going for Magnan in the first place. But yeah, I'm not going to take a -3 hit to bring in Magnan for Pickford. Cucurella to Saliba, I could afford that, but it would be for a -3, and I just don't think it's really worth it. If Medina will start in the next game, I can just keep him and not need to bring in Lisandro Martinez, and then I can just bring in Saliba. Bob's your uncle, even if it's for Cucurella, but that isn't the case here. So, yeah, some tough decisions to make this week, and I think Medina won't start. You could just bench Medina and go about double Argentina defense for this week. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, that's not the end of the world, but it also removes one player from your 50-man squad to make substitutions and to make modifications if necessary. Look, there is still a chance Medina starts, but I think it's quite low now after what happened yesterday. Does Due start over Barkla versus Paraguay? I think Barkla will start, but that's just my opinion. Hugo says, what do you think of option A, replacing Danilo, Tagliafico, Sanchez, Manzambi for Dean, Mojica, Halhau, and Baena? I wouldn't sell Tagliafico now. It looks like he's going to start on match day 5, and Luca Dean might not even start for you against Paraguay. So I think that move is a bit unnecessary. Even though France have the better chance of a clean sheet, I think Luca Dean is a big risk. Option B, replacing Danilo, Tagliafico, Sanchez, and Consa for Dean, Mojica, Medina, Halhau, Cucurella. Similar thing. I wouldn't bring in Luca Dean personally. If you're really backing him to start, then go for it, but I think it's a massive risk. I also think Consa and Tagliafico are worth keeping, to be honest. I think both of them could do really well, and they qualify for the scouting bonus, so a clean sheet is possible. I think England-Mexico will be very cagey and low-scoring. Argentina-Egypt, well, Argentina have a great chance for clean sheet on paper, but they need to be much better than they were yesterday in order to advance. Hi Dylan, which option would you pick? Diaz and Oyarzabal or Saibari and Lukaku? Diaz and Oyarzabal. If you have the clean sheet shield active, I think Hakimi is probably the one to go for. Without it though, Saibari is the preference. Thanks to the moderators for keeping things flowing. Why are you not captaining Saibari? Because I haven't bought him in yet. That's why. If I were to buy Hakimi in the end, because of the clean sheet shield, those points actually count towards your captaincy score. So that's why if I end up bringing Hakimi in, he would be the preference, but it all depends on that booster. Thank you as well for the other super chat there, Ollie. Much appreciated. Yamal or Dembele to Elise? I'd rather sell Yamal. Just bear in mind, if Spain go through, it's going to be USA or Belgium in the next round, and I think Spain would beat them as well. Can I change Hakimi to Mbappe captain today? Yes, but captain Hakimi first, and it all depends on if there are any delays and stuff like that in the Morocco game. If that's the case, it could overlap with the France one, but yeah, Morocco versus Canada will kick off in 50 minutes, and the France game will be at 10 p.m. in the UK. There's a 6-hour difference, so the window should be enough for you to make that change. Clean sheet booster for only one player? Not sure what you mean by that, to be honest. Only one player? Honestly, I think it could be quite handy, and you get a lot of points from it from several players in general. Dylan to go for Freeman or Sanchez from Mexico? I don't like either, but obviously Mexico have defended better. They haven't conceded a goal in this tournament, but I think they will against England. I'm going for a high-scoring game between USA and Belgium. Probably Sanchez if I had to pick one, but I think both will blank. Then again, if you got the clean sheet shield, 1 goal conceded would still be points for you. Can I change Hakimi to Mbappe captain covered? Who's more essential, Hakimi or Saibari? Considering their replacements. Probably Saibari, because at 6.8 and below, I think he's the best midfielder for matchday 5 here. But obviously, Hakimi looks really good this week with the clean sheet shield active. It's just you've also got the likes of Saliba, you've got Lisandro Martinez, and a few other premium defenders. Obviously, Lisandro's not premium, but yeah, you've got other options in that defensive line, in my opinion. In the midfield, you've technically got Trossard and Bruno Guimaraes at a similar price, but I think Saibari is significantly better this week. Yeah, why Halhau instead of Mazzari? I said this many times, mate. It's about budget. Halhau's only here because he's starting over Chadi Riyad and he costs 3.5 million. That's my way of being able to afford Lisandro Martinez, selling Medina, who will likely be benched against Egypt. I'm not a big fan of keeping Dest, but there you go. It also allows me to bring in Michael Elise, which is very appealing on paper. Hello all. Need somehow to get this all together in 1 hour. Yeah, well, by watching this stream, you will have a good chance of doing so. I think Tagliafico will start Paredes. I said this all stream, to be honest. Many, many times. Yo, Dylan, hope you're well. My entire 50-man squad qualified for the round of 16. That's quite helpful. My team is Rangel, Shabir, Dest, Medina, Freeman, Laria, Mojica, Vinicius, Yamal, Dembele, Elise, Pulisic, Mbappe, K, Messi. I've got some concerns here. I'm not going to lie to you. Both your goalkeepers, I think, are quite weak. I know Rangel's been brilliant this tournament in terms of World Cup fantasy points, but I think Mexico could crash out. I'd sell Shabir. I don't think Medina will start either. And I told, we spoke about this in the last deadline stream. I think your defense is quite light. And whilst it did quite well for you last time out, I think there's going to be some concerns for the round of 16 and beyond. So I think most of your effort should be focused on that. If you need a cash cow, it might need to be Yamal or Vinicius / Dembele. Obviously, you'd only sell Dembele if you think he's going to be benched. So, yeah, I think what you're looking at here is potentially downgrading Yamal to a cheaper midfielder and then using those funds to upgrade Shabir and some defenders in your team. Is clean sheet shield only for one player? It's for your entire defense, your goalkeepers, and your midfielders. It's only an extra point for a clean sheet for midfielders, but that could still be quite helpful. I can't give you the exact France starting lineup, only my prediction, which would be Maignan in goal, Koundé, Upamecano, Saliba, and I think Theo Hernandez. There is a chance it'll be Luka Dean. On the left, I think Barkla starts, and typically the left-hand side is like a duo, so it will be normally Theo Hernandez with Doué, if not Barkla with Luka Dean. But I think it could be mixed up a little bit this time round. Dembele, I think, will start, although some predicted lineups don't have him in there. There are reports that Tchouameni will be on the bench and get a rest. So I think it'll be Kone and Rabiot with Elise and Mbappe. That would be my French predicted lineup. Thank you, Richard Millichip. Brilliant stream, mate. Thanks for your help. Do you think Medina will start in the next round if Argentina go through? It's possible, but it also depends on Tagliafico's performance against Egypt, and I think he will start. And he was very reliable in the last World Cup, and we had Acuna start in the earlier rounds of Qatar, And yeah, as the tournament progressed, Tagliafico established himself as the main left back for Argentina, especially in the semi-finals and finals. So yeah, I think it could be a very similar situation here. Obviously, Medina had a very good group stage campaign, but yeah, a bit shaky yesterday, particularly for the first goal that Cape Verde scored. So we've got 45 minutes left until the deadline. Be sure to lock things in as soon as possible. Yeah, I think Concer's fine on the clean sheet shield. And honestly, I don't think England will concede more than one. Let's see how that ages. Brahim Diaz and Upamecano or Pulisic and Mazraoui? I would go for Brahim Diaz and Upamecano. Best budget mid, Manzambi. Thank you, Nahal, for the super chat. Brown, Medina, Bellingham, David, Upamecano, Licha, Saibari, Oyarzabal. Looks good to me. I'm very happy with all of those transfers. I think they're all upgrades, to be fair, so go for it. Would you say Munoz or Mazraoui is the better choice? Probably Mazraoui this week. The problem is Morocco will likely face France in the next round. In the case of Colombia, unless Egypt knocked out Argentina, it's going to be a tough opponent for them in the quarterfinals as well. And I'd argue Switzerland is a tougher opponent than Canada. Yeah, it's a difficult one, but I'd rather go for Mazraoui this week. My transfer plans are Yamal, Medina, Laria, and Shabir to Saibari, Hakimi, Halhal, and Maignan Martinez. I'd go for Maignan this week. I also think France have the better fixture against Morocco / Canada compared to Argentina facing either Colombia or Switzerland. So, as good as Argentina are defensively, and I still think they're more solid than France, I think Maignan would be the pick there. I like your other moves as well. Just be careful about the triple up in Morocco because they are facing France in matchday 6 here. I don't think Medina will start. I think it's going to be Tagliafico. Got one free transfer. Should I sell Dest with 0.7 in the bank? Yeah, or you could go for Lisandro Martinez. There are other options where that came from, but I think you've kind of narrowed it down quite well. Fair Mellow says, hello Dylan. Please help what transfers to do. My team, Crepo, Pickford, Medina, Molina, Freeman, Cucurella, Douglas Santos, Yamal, Bellingham, Elise, Manzambi, Vinicius, Haaland, Mbappe, Messi. I would like to bring in Kane if possible, which might be an unpopular opinion. But the biggest concerns I've got include Crepo in goal, Medina, who I don't think starts, and yeah, I'd say something at Haaland to either Kane or you downgrade to someone like Oyarzabal. That could help you get the funds needed to then do something like Crepo to Manyan. You could also do Medina to either Lisandro Martinez or even a French defender. I wouldn't mind that. But you've got Elise and Mbappe in there already. I'd definitely bring in a third or fourth French player. Whether that's Elise in the midfield, which... Sorry, not Elise. Dembele, which to be fair could be risky this week. But that's certainly worth it. Yeah, I'd definitely focus on your goalkeeper and defenders there. Why not downgrade Dembele to Barkla and upgrade Hal to Hakimi? Because there's a chance Barkla doesn't start. And I think Dembele is still a significantly better asset than Barkla if they both start. But if I see news that Dembele's benched and that Barkla starts, then yeah, I might end up doing that. But ultimately, Hakimi will be a sell on match day 6 regardless, unless Paraguay knock France out, which I don't think will happen. And obviously that assumes that Morocco beat Canada too. Could I get a L'Equipe predicted lineup? That'd be quite interesting. Yeah, one other predicted lineup I've seen for France has Lucadine and Barkla starting on the left, Rabiot and Kone in central midfield, and the rest is what you would expect for France. It's really just the left-hand side, which is a bit of a concern, and sometimes in central midfield, which isn't too fantasy relevant, in my opinion. Have I got... Let's see. Oh, no, really? That's dumb. Let's check this. Hopefully it's a L'Equipe predicted lineup. No, I don't think it is. It's just a random team. So yeah, that's not really great. Yeah, another predicted lineup here has Manyan, Kunde, Saliba, Mancano, Hernandez, Kone. They've got Tchouameni in there. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll be Rabiot, Doué, Elise, Barkla, Mbappe. So that's another predicted lineup without Dembele in there, which is a bit of a concern. Just checking some more lineups here. Yeah, don't really see anything else. I am being a bit greedy in terms of wanting Argentina, stuff like that. But yeah, we're not going to get any clarification there. And for France, I would really want a L'Equipe predicted lineup. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna get that. Yeah, I think it's not. It's going to be futile, unfortunately. I'm going to do one last check, but yeah, I can't really guarantee anything with France. Yeah, I mean, Tchouaméni being replaced by Kone, that seems quite settled and straightforward. Apparently, Paraguay are going to line up in a 5-4-1 against France tonight, which isn't a big surprise. Alfaro is a very defensive coach, and it's their best way of winning the game or going through. But let me know in the live chat what you think. Do you think it's going to be Dean or maybe Theo Hernandez at left back, Barkla or Doué? Do you even think that Dembele could be benched? Because I've seen a few predicted lineups without him. I'm not so sure where that's coming from, but there you go. In terms of this poll, let's see what... There's a few super chats as well in the building. I'm not sure what happened to the poll, by the way. I think it disappeared. But yeah, let's go through the super chats first. Thanks, Paredes. 10.5 million budget for one defender, one midfielder. It's either Hal and 7 million mid, or Hakimi and 4.5 million mid. Or I swap Vargas to Manzambi -3 and upgrade my budget with the extra 1.2. But that leaves you as 5.7. So you could go for Arias. But is it worth a -3? I'm not so sure about that. So I think in this context, it's probably better to go for Hal and the 7 million midfielder, which is why I'm leaning towards that sort of avenue. As much as I wanted Hakimi in my World Cup fantasy team, I think it makes sense to go for the cheaper option. And ultimately, I want to sell these Moroccan defenders for Matchday 6 regardless, unless something crazy happens. So, yeah, I think that's probably it. There would be a concern about the sort of flexibility about selling Hal or these cheap defenders for the quarterfinals, but I think that's probably the best play for the game week right in front of us, which is the round of 16. So very good question. It's not a clear-cut one, and the -3 could even be considered, but I would lean towards Hal and the 7 million midfielder. Should I take a -3 on Medina for Hal? No, not for me. I mean, Morocco could keep a clean sheet, and even one goal conceded with the clean sheet shield active would obviously give you some points there, but I don't think it's worth a -3 hit, to be fair. Cool. Let's go for some more questions. I'll try to lock in over the next 10-20 minutes if possible, but I can't really guarantee that because, yeah, I've been focusing on a lot of questions here. Are you going to use the clean sheet shield? Yes, it's currently active. It has been for the last couple of days. There is a small chance I delay it to match day 6, but ultimately it will be used in the round of 16 or quarterfinals and the maximum captain for 7 or 8, which has always been the plan. Is there a midfielder better than Saibari at his price or below? I don't think so. Not for matchday 5. Long term, yeah, I think so. You know, Bruno Guimaraes and Trossard could be 2 examples, but for the round of 16, I just don't really see that being the case. Dest or O'Reilly? Probably O'Reilly, actually. I think Molina starts for Argentina, but it's not an absolute guarantee. Cheers, Dylan. Move's done. I'm glad to hear it, and all the best for matchday 5. What is the wildcard team for the round of 8? Well, if you mean the quarterfinals, that's the match day after this one. if you still got the wildcard chip available, then check out my best wildcard squad and you can see what I've built. And I pretty much stand by everything I said in that video. But yeah, I'm trying to sort of match that as best as possible. How technically isn't going to be one of those, but he's just a cheap enabler and facilitator. And I'm trying to find a way to bring in Elise into my squad. But it also means selling Yamal, who I might want to bring back for the next set of fixtures anyway. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking out my best wildcard squad video if you're planning to use that chip now. Best card to play this week, barring wildcard. If you still got the 12th man, I'd prioritize that. Qualification chip, and then the clean sheet shield in that order. The maximum captain should be saved, in my opinion, for 7 or 8. I want to skip Hakimi and just go for a France defender. I think that's fine, and France would likely beat Paraguay and Morocco in the next round. If it's Canada, then I think it's the same outcome. Hey Dylan, 4.1 million defense for Medina. Can't afford any Argentine defense. Yeah, that's where a Moroccan defender could come into play. So How is the one I'm looking at right now. Ultimately, you're quite limited with your options, but that could be decent. Apart from that, yeah, the others are going to be above the threshold, like Diop at 4.5 and Mezraoui costing 4.4, so probably How just as a one match day punt more than anything else. What should I change here? I think Crepo would be one of the main weaknesses, possibly Serginho Dest. I think the rest looks quite good, but yeah, with your Moroccan assets, I'd look to sell them in match day 6 before they face France, but for now they look pretty good. Is clean sheet shield only for one player? I covered that, mate. It's for your entire defense and your goalkeepers and also midfielders. All this talk just for Dembele to do a Somerville and haul off the bench. That's if he's benched in the first place, but I don't want to sell Dembele. I'm fuming. I went early on Riyadh and replaced Dest. I get that. It's difficult sometimes, but I always recommend people sort of like saving their transfers for the end of the match day, if you will. Seeing all the matches, and we still had a few things happen yesterday, even with Argentina. They only just got over the line against Cape Verde, so yeah, I get your pain, but if possible, try to save it for, you know, the last couple of hours heading into the deadline, but I recognise that's not always possible. Barkley's not confirmed, but I think he'll start. I didn't use the qualification bonus. O no usé el clasificación bonus. Sí, lo usaría ahora, pero depende de los otros comodines que tienes. Si tienes el wildcard, el 12th man, el capitán también. Para mí eso es mejor usarlo al final, para la jornada 7 o 8, pero por ejemplo, el clean sheet shield está bueno usarlo ahora. En tu caso, creo que es mejor usar el bonus de clasificación ahora y el clean sheet shield en la jornada 6, pero no sé si tienes el wildcard o no. Do you think Dean will start? I'm almost 50-50 on it. I'm not quite sure, but with Barkley likely to start, or at least I think he'll start, we usually see him and Luka Dean start together on the left-hand side, so that could definitely play into Luka Dean's hands, but even if that's the case this week, we could see the opposite happen on match day 6. I personally would avoid that. Any mids at price 5.9 million? Arias, Manzambi, they would stand out in my opinion. I mean, Zico just as a pure budget midfielder, but I personally wouldn't go there. Yeah, for me, it's going to be Manzambi. What mid-price midfielders are top picks this week? Saibari, Bruno Guimaraes, and Trossard. 4.2 defender. I'm going for Hal at the moment. Yeah, I think that's the one to replace Chadi Riyadh. Julio says, Mañan or Pickford? Mañan. Arias or Quinones? Well, they're different positions, to be honest, but I'd rather go for Arias. We've got another super chat in the building. Yeah, Medina or Martinez? I don't think Medina starts, so definitely Lisandro Martinez here. And thank you, FPL Kevy, for keeping things going. I have one left. Is it worth getting rid of Spence? I have 0.8. I think so, especially if you have Pickford already. I've just seen a few lineups that don't have Dembele in there. That could open the possibilities of Doué and Barkley starting together. It's not set in stone. I'm not even sure how reliable these predictions are. I mean, one Squawker, like, fair enough, they can have decent predictions, but they're not necessarily sources that have inside information. The same goes for the standard. So, yeah, I think Dembele will start, but I'm not as convinced as I would be for Elise or Mbappe, for example. Dest or O'Reilly? O'Reilly for me. Yeah, Kerim, honestly, I don't know how to spell it out to you, mate. I've said it many times. It counts for everyone, so that's the last time I'm answering that one, I'm afraid. Best Colombian defender not named Munoz? Probably Davinson Sanchez. I mean, Mojica came close to scoring yesterday, but as long as they have scouting bonus classification, so less than 5% ownership, that would probably be the way to sort of go against Munoz, but it's not really something I'd recommend. Yeah, it's not really much in it. Probably Sanchez if I had to pick one, but I don't think Mexico or USA will keep a clean sheet. But in my prediction, I went for 1-0 England and 2-2 between USA Belgium. And if you're using the clean sheet shield, that would favour the Mexican defender. Yes, the clean sheet shield is active. I've said that all along. Best 12th man. Between those two, probably Yamal. But apart from Messi, Mbappe and Kane, you're looking at a French attacker like Elise or Dembele for the 12th man. Maybe even Barkla if you're looking to go differential. Is clean sheet... oh, Jesus Christ, man. Yeah, thanks for sorting that out. I don't know if he's trolling or what. Cunha, Elise, Mustafa, or Wedge? Oh, Cunha. I don't know what YouTube is doing translating this. Barkla, Vargas. Good question. Mustafa, I don't like that one. But Cunha and Elise look good. I'm going to go for Cunha, Elise, Mustafa. ¿Cuándo usarás el comodín de portería a cero? Ahora. Siempre dije la jornada 5 o 6 para ese comodín. O'Reilly o Tagliafico? Tagliafico. Muñoz o Lisandro Martinez and Desto Molina? Lisandro Martinez and Molina. I was planning to use Elise's 12th man, but you have him already. But you have him already. Well, I'm bringing him in right now. What else would you pick for 12th man? Well, I'd personally recommend the front three I've got. I'm one of Dembele or Elise for 12th man. Those are my favourites for that chip. Would you do O'Reilly, Yamal, and Nemecha, Tukunde, Barkla, and Saibari? Looks pretty good. There are some concerns about Barkla starting, but he could still haul off the bench. I definitely like Saibari, and a French defender is a good pick overall. Cucurella or Konsa out? The thing is, if Spain go through, they will play USA or Belgium, and I think Spain could keep a clean sheet there. And even in this one, I think 2-1, maybe 1-0 Spain. So if you're using the clean sheet shield, I think Cucurella makes a lot of sense. Konsa qualifies for the scouting bonus, but he doesn't offer the same attacking threat as Cucurella does, who got 2 assists against Austria. I'd rather sell Konsa if I had to pick one. Bellingham's a good pick, yes. But is he the best one in the midfield? No, not necessarily. Gay or Cucurella? Cucurella. Why have opposing teams in your squad? Clean sheet shield. Not a big issue there. Unless they concede 2+ goals, which is a different story. But in this case, I mean, what we're seeing on the screen, it's just Switzerland and Colombia. Is it that big of a deal? Not really. For France and Morocco, that would be an issue next round, but I'm planning to sell my Moroccan assets anyway, so that shouldn't be too bad. Obviously, Colombia, Argentina is a different story, but I would sell Munoz, I think, by that point. Best bonus for this round? Depends on which chips you have available. But the 12th man should be prioritized first. Use it as early as possible. Then the qualification booster, and then the clean sheet shield. That is the priority of those boosters. If you have only the clean sheet shield left, I'd use it now or on match day 6. Munoz or Lisandro Martinez? Yeah, I covered that, mate. Thank you. Bye-bye. How or Saibari captain? Saibari. There is a case for sure to use the captaincy on defenders in some cases, especially Hakimi versus Saibari, but with how, I think I'd just go for Saibari still. Dembele to Elise for a -3? Not for me. Unless you're convinced that Dembele's benched or gets a full rest, I just don't really see that being the case. Dylan, the predicted weather forecast for Paraguay-France match is going to be very hot. I heard that. 42, 43 degrees. I think even Argentina yesterday was around 40. So yeah, that's going to be quite hot. The thunderstorms are the biggest concerns though, which can cause delays. Kane or Oyarzabal? Harry Kane. Is it too risky to pick Barkla instead of Elise? It's a bit risky, but Barkla can still haul off the bench. Oyarzabal is a decent 12th man, but not my favourite. Yeah, this poll isn't completely one-sided, but Dest, Martinez, How, and Elise is winning. I'm probably going to make those transfers now, by the way. and bring them in. So let's just make those moves. So that's what you see right now with Elise. This is the alternative with Baena. It could be somebody else as well. Yeah, my only concern here is not having a French defender. It would require a -3 to make that happen. But yeah, just for those that are tuning in a little bit later, let's go through a few different screens. So McAllister is no longer bonus eligible. I'm not sure why people are buying him in after his performance yesterday. But Pulisic and Ezri Konsa, they qualify for the scouting bonus. So does Crepeau from Canada. But Trossard doesn't, and neither does Bono. These are the clean sheet odds. France are top with 64.5%. So that could be, yeah, a bit disappointing not having a French option to cover their defense. Argentina, Morocco, Colombia, and England complete the top 5 with Spain, Brazil, Mexico, Switzerland. Yeah, completing the rest of these so-called likely clean sheet odds. You've got Belgium in there as well, Canada, Portugal, Norway, Egypt, and Paraguay completing the rest of the round of 16 participants. In terms of the clean sheet shield, I'm asked quite a lot today. Well, I've been asked quite a lot about the best time to use this chip. Matchday 5 is winning with 67%. 33 of you, or 33% of you have gone for Matchday 6. These are my predictions for the games. Canada 1, Morocco 2. Paraguay 0, France 3. Brazil 2, Norway 1. Mexico 0, England 1. Might go for a Mexican goal. Portugal 1, Spain 2. USA 2, Belgium 2. Argentina 2, Egypt 0. And Switzerland 1, Colombia 2. A lot of 2-1s in there. I might shake that up a little bit. These are my brackets, which have been kind of mixed bag. A few of them have been spot on, others not so much. But I got France, Canada, Spain right in the round of 16, USA. I went for Senegal, which almost looked like a good decision. Brazil, Norway, Mexico, England, Argentina. I went for Australia. It ended up being Egypt. Switzerland and Colombia. The rest were inaccurate. So these are the substitutions for Canada and Morocco. Chadi Riyad is on the bench. That's the big surprise there. But what I'm looking at the moment is going for a 3-point family defender in Hal to cover that Moroccan defense. So that's why I'm looking at that right now. Let's go to the transfer section. Well, very shortly. I'm going to let this play out so you can see my original transfer plans, which included Hakimi, selling Yamal and going for the likes of Trossard, and also my Matchday 4 review, which counts everybody now. Emi Martinez conceded twice but made 3 saves in that thrilling game between Argentina and Cape Verde. So I had Medina, who was subbed off as well just before Argentina conceded their second goal. So he got 4 points for me, just like, well, Emi Martinez. As part of my Argentina defensive double-up, Pickford was substituted out. He also got 4 points. O'Reilly, yeah, he blanked. And technically, Emi Martinez got 2 points, by the way. But obviously, this is with the qualification booster active. Munoz got 9, Dest with 12, and Cucurella with 2 assists. But yeah, Serginho Dest won the free kick that was converted. That's why he got the assist points. As for the midfield, a bit disappointing. Yamal and Vinicius essentially blanked, but they went through. So a 5-pointer for Yamal. Manzambi, though, got the assist. 8 points overall for him. And Ousmane Dembele, very similar, but no goals scored by my midfielders. Unlike the forward line, Harry came with a brace, just like Kylian Mbappe, who was my captain. And Messi had 6 shots on target, a goal, and for a moment he had an assist, but that was taken away as Romero's goal was actually reclassified as a Cape Verde own goal. So on my bench I had Pickford, so technically him and O'Reilly would have got, what, 2 points in the end, but this is with qualification booster also taken into account. Vinicius Jr. as well with 4 points, and the Mecha with just the 1. He was my only eliminated player, and he is the priority to sell right now. So you can ignore the matchday points and stuff, because ultimately, yeah, that should be swapped around. I did get 122 points last time out. Dest Hakimi was one of my priority transfers, and the same goes for buying Saliba, but I might not be able to do that in the end if I want to get Michael Elise in the midfield. So Nemecha to Saibari is also on the cards, and I was considering the likes of Bruno Guimaraes and Trossard to replace Yamal, but I am looking in a different direction right now. and selling Yamal to Elise instead. So this was my sort of provisional team I talked about in my team selection podcast earlier, with Pickford facing Mexico, Hakimi against Canada, Cucurella facing Portugal, and Saliba and Dembele up against Paraguay. I've also got Saibari there as a main Campsy option, but for those with Hakimi and you're activating the clean sheet shield, I'd probably go for him captain over Saibari. Trossard against USA looks decent, and Vinicius facing Norway isn't too shabby, and that front three is incredible. It's very tough to beat that. Some people are looking to sell Harry Kane, but I'm not one of them. On my bench, Martinez, Medina, Munoz and Manzambi, but what has changed is the Argentina-Cape Verde game from yesterday, where Medina was subbed off due to cramp, and reports indicate that Tagliafico could start for the round of 16 against Egypt. So that's why I made a few modifications to my transfer plans, and ultimately, with these original ideas, I would have captained Hakimi over Saibari, but right now, I'm going in a different direction. So if we go here to the transfer section, my plan at the moment is to keep Dest, buy Lisandro Martinez for Medina as a like-for-like replacement, so I can still double up on the Argentina defense. If I had enough money, I'd probably bring in Saliba or Upamecano, but I just don't have enough to also bring in even Lucas Digne, who is the cheapest entry point to that France defense, and he might not even start regardless. I've got Hau as the enabler because it allows me to buy Michael Elise for Lamine Yamal. And I can also bring in Saibari, who is my favourite mid-price midfielder. So there you go, 0.2 million in the bank. I'll probably regret not going for Hakimi once again, but hopefully he blanks and it won't be a big issue in the end. No, I don't think Medina starts. I've said that many times. Would you get a French defender over someone like Lisandro? Yes, I would. But I don't have enough money for that. 0.2 in the bank with this 50-man squad. It would mean no Elise or possibly no Cucurella, but I'm not going to take a -3 hit to do Cucurella to Saliba. I mean, is that viable? Maybe. It's not a bad idea in the grand scheme of things, but I just don't really think it's worth it per se, because I'm also using the clean sheet shield. So if Spain concede once, I'm still going to get those points from Marc Cucurella. And Spain haven't conceded a single goal in this tournament, just like Mexico. So I'm going to lock these in, I think, and make these final transfers. Yeah, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. My advice to everyone watching is to not copy, play the game your way, and have fun. Make mistakes in the way and learn from them. But that's the way to improve as a World Cup fantasy manager. So Nemecha, Yamal, Medina, and O'Reilly would be out for Saibari, Elise, Hau, and Lisandro Martinez. I think that's probably the way I'm going to go. And yeah, very soon I'll be confirming those transfers. Thank you, Julio. I have 6.3 million for a midfielder. Tielemans or any other suggestions? Yeah, Tielemans scored that late header and also the winning penalty. I think Lukaku said that he was very low on confidence. That's why he didn't take it against Senegal. Yeah, apart from him, you do have Manzambi and Arias, who could be considered, but Switzerland-Colombia is quite tough to call. I think most of us would back Colombia, but that could be quite cagey and low scoring. Yeah, I think USA-Belgium could be a very interesting game with a lot of goals in there, and Tielemans isn't a bad option, but Trossard is my preference in that Belgian midfield. If you have enough money for him, well, obviously you're saying 6.3 million, so you are a bit limited there. Obviously, someone mentioned Tillman. That's not a bad option either. With Morocco, it's just Saibari or Boss for me, even though someone else could step up this time round. But yeah, Tillman could be decent. I wouldn't be against that. I think if it's me, though, I'm still quite interested in Manzambi against Colombia. I think Switzerland could score a goal or two. You can't roll transfer in the knockout stages, only from match days 2 to 3. Yep, clean sheet booster's active. I said before that I could save it for match day 6, and there's a chance I sort of deactivate it and save it for the quarterfinals instead, but it's very likely I will stick with it. Manzambi to Saibari or Crepo to Magnan? I think Crepo to Magnan is the bigger upgrade, to be fair. I don't think Canada keep a clean sheet. I think Argentina could, but it's not a guarantee, especially with how they defended yesterday. I do like Saibari, though. It's a very good transfer, but I think in this context, I'd probably do Crepo to Magnan. Would you take out Munoz or Dest this week? I'd rather sell Dest, and I'd go for Saliba. Barkla or Dembele? Dembele. Defender for 4.7 million with scouting bonus, please. Molina, Konsa. Those would be two good options for you. To be fair, I think Konsa's 4.8, isn't he? But yeah, those would be decent. How? Diop. Yeah, those aren't too bad either. Thanks as well, Punjabi. So RMC Sport have got a predicted lineup there for France. Let's go through that before I lock in my transfers, just in case. If you haven't done so already, by the way, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. It would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, you can check all the links in the description here. What the hell is that? I'm trying to open your link, by the way, but it didn't let me. So let me have another look. Okay, I'm going to get the lineup on screen now. So it does look like Luca Dean will start, according to RMC Sport. With Magnan in goal, Luca Dean, Saliba, Upamecano, Koundé, Rabiot, Tchouameni, Barkla, Elise, Dembele, and Mbappe. So yeah, I've said this before. When Barkla starts, it's usually Luca Dean behind him. And when it's Doué, you've got Theo Hernandez at left back. So it looks like a similar story there. They've gone for Tchouameni, though, which is interesting. There were reports that he would be benched and then Kone would come in. So let's see if this ends up being the lineup. But thank you for putting the link. It's much appreciated. Change Diaz for Bruno Guimaraes to have enough money to keep Kane Haaland. Yes, I'd rather keep Kane over Haaland, though. I think the best front three is Mbappe, Messi, and Harry Kane. What am I doing with my life on a Saturday afternoon? I'm sitting here checking if there's going to be a storm in Houston. Well, I mean, it's a different way of having fun, I guess. I'm not really checking the weather that much, but it is worth bearing in mind because we've seen a massive impact already with the France... was it the France-Iraq game on Matchday 2? And last year with Benfica-Chelsea in the Club World Cup. Molina, Brahim Diaz or Medina, Saibari. I like Saibari a lot, but I just don't think Medina starts. So naturally, I lean towards Molina and Brahim Diaz. But yeah, it's not ideal. I think Clean Sheet Shield is well used on either match day. I'm going to use it now, I think. And it makes sense in the context of my squad where I've got the likes of Manzambi and Munoz in the final game. And I can't sub them out. But I could preserve a clean sheet for both of them by using the chip right now. Old guard versus young blood, says Zulu. Koundé or Dean? I think Koundé's safer, so if you have extra money, I'd go for Koundé. Yeah, 12th man, I would say, apart from the front three that we all know about, it's going to be either Dembele or Elise. I think Elise would be my pick this week. Yeah, Tchouameni, yeah, that's why I'm surprised about it. I wasn't aware that Tchouameni was officially ruled out there. I'll have a look. Yeah, Tchouameni. Let's see. Fabrice Hawkins, who actually works for RMC Sport. So the MRI scan undergone by Tchouameni has revealed a minor lesion. So a minor injury that is not serious but requires particular vigilance from medical staff. The midfielder was injured following a contact that occurred during training this Friday. Estimated unavailability duration of 4 days as revealed on RMC Sport. So yeah, this squad seems to be a bit out of date then. Yeah, it was from yesterday, last night, but Tchouameni shouldn't be in there. So maybe that's the only change. Kone in for Tchouameni and Barkla, Luca Dean on the left. Let's see. I'm very confident about the rest, but on the left-hand side, well, good luck with that. Tagliafico to cover Argentina defense with budget. If possible, I would go for Lisandro, but if you need a cheaper defender, I think one of Molina or Tagliafico is fine. Ultimately, we could see rotation happen on both flanks, and I think Argentina have a vulnerability with their fullbacks anyway. But yeah, probably that. Which mic do you use? A Rode NT1A. So yes, it is an XLR. Yeah, L'Equipe also predicting Dean and Barkla starting. If you have a link to that, let me know. That'd be greatly appreciated. Yeah, he's starting over Chadi Riyad, Twisted Parky. I went for the lineups a few times. It's only for this match day, and ultimately I'm going to be selling my Moroccan assets before match day 6. Yeah, Ronaldo, Odegaard, Haaland, Youngblood for 12th man. It's going to be Haaland for me. Better fixture. I think Spain are better than Brazil. Yeah, best French defender, probably Saliba. There's not really much in it, I'll be honest with you. Just go for someone who's a bit safer. If Luka Dean starts, sure, he's got a bit of attacking threat in him, and he's also cheaper, but I just don't really see like a massive gap, as you probably would of other nations. I mean, right now, Lisandro is establishing himself as the best Argentina defender, even though that looked quite tight a couple of match days ago. With Spain, I think they're all quite solid, but I'd avoid Porro and Llorente. It's a similar story with the left backs for France. So honestly, it's probably Saliba for me, but you can't go wrong with Upamecano or Koundé either. Pulisic over Saibari. I prefer Saibari, but Pulisic is decent. I actually said this a couple of days ago and today. I think Pulisic could be the best performing American asset. Dembele or Oyarzabal. Lautaro. I definitely wouldn't go for Lautaro 12th man based on his recent form. I'd go for Dembele. Captaincy today. Yeah, if I had a Kimi, I probably would captain him with the clean sheet shield active, but yeah, Saibari for me, and then Mbappe. Should I keep him Balogun, red card for a Kimi? If possible, I would sell Balogun, because you're down to 14. Please explain what you mean better. I also have Manzambi and Vargas. Would it mean that you are hoping to sub them in for non-performers? Well, basically, Switzerland played Colombia in the last game of the match day, so by using the clean sheet shield, if Colombia-Switzerland ends up being like 1-1, then you're going to get clean sheet points from both Manzambi and Munoz. It's not like a massive gain, but the more points, the merrier. Now, for the next round, it could be a similar story with Argentina-Colombia, maybe facing each other. If that's the case, you can keep Munoz and your Argentina assets and still get some clean sheet points in the process. You could also have France and Moroccan assets, but I'll be honest with you, I think France will score more than 1 goal against Morocco. But it could be quite useful with your French defenders or Magnan in goal if Morocco were to score a goal. So, yeah, it just depends on your players and the setup. I can't really tell you definitively what is the very best match day, but I've basically highlighted match day 5 and 6 as the best window to use the clean sheet shield, similar to the maximum captain for 7 and 8. But then it's more complicated for others because they've also got the wild card or 12th man, maybe the qualification booster. And it's about prioritizing. So if you've got the 12th man, I'd use that as early as possible. So right now, if you still have it, then it'd be the qualification booster, which would be the next priority. And after that, it'd be the clean sheet shield. So I actually don't mind using that for the quarterfinals on match day 6 there. So we've only got a couple of minutes left. I'm going to lock in my team. I want Elise in. Let's bring him in. My only concern about this is having Hal for the next round and also not having French defenders. But you can't have them all, and it's still a pretty balanced squad in the grand scheme of things. So I'm going to end this poll and do a very quick one and see what you lot think. It's maybe not what you'd expect, but I do like the French defenders for this week. 64% of you have gone for my most likely transfers. No, I don't think Medina will play. Thank you for that. I didn't see L'Equipe's predicted lineup, but yeah, I imagine it's very similar to what you see on screen, but just no Tchouaméni instead of Kone. So let's see what you lot think about that. Selling Cucurella for a -3 hit for a French defender. Bearing in mind, I've got the clean sheet shield active. So 1 goal conceded would still equal a clean sheet there. I said this just a few minutes ago. Probably Saliba, but there's not much in it. I think France-Paraguay may be lower scoring than most think, as Paraguay will park the bus. I've went for France defender because of this. Yeah, I get that. And I'd rather have a French defender as well, if possible. They've got the best chance of a clean sheet this week, but I do like this triple up in the attack. And yeah, Elise, Dembele and Mbappe is a force to be reckoned with. So I'm going to go for this and just keep Cucurella. No Saliba, no French defenders. It is what it is, but it's not too shabby. So yeah, just under 4 minutes left until the deadline. Make sure to lock things in. But yeah, Tchouameni is confirmed out. So it will be Kone alongside Rabiot. Could I get their predicted lineup? All right, I'm going to go for it. Nemecha to Saibari, Yamal to Elise, Medina to, well, technically Lisandro Martinez, and O'Reilly to Hal. There you go, 0.2 in the bank. Yeah, I'm not going to overcomplicate that. So those transfers are done. And let me just put Hal into the starting 11, and I'll put Lisandro Martinez on the bench. First captain is going to be Saibari, and I'm going to put the vice on Hal. You don't want to vice captain a player who features towards the very end of the match day, just so you don't remove a captaincy window from yourself. You want to give yourself as many chances as possible, and we already get plenty at this stage of the competition. But there you go, 1 minute and 50 seconds to go, and the live chat is going absolutely crazy. Thanks, Aaron, for the super chat. McKennie out for Rabiot. I'll be honest, with France, it's Mbappe, Elise, Dembele, and defenders, or Maignan in goal. I wouldn't go for Rabiot at the moment. If you want a budget midfielder, you could go for Arias, Manzambi, even Tielemans, as some viewers rightfully mentioned, but I think Manzambi is still one of my favourites at that price and below. Can you afford Pickford to Maignan for a -3? I can. I could do that. I just don't really see that being worth it because England might just concede the 1 goal. I don't think they'll concede more than that. And I think France might actually end up conceding a similar amount of goals to England, although they have a better chance of a clean sheet this week. I'd favour Elise, but to be honest with you, Mbappe's the one to captain. Exactly that. Don't forget to captain a Moroccan or Canadian player first. Captain the player who features in the first match, and then you can switch it between every single game. So I've got Saibari captain, I've got Hal as my vice, I've basically used that up already, and I won't encounter any issues later on in the match day. Thanks to all the super chatters, the patrons, the members, and all the comments. Went Ronaldo 12th man. Good luck. It is Spain, though. I mean, the best defense in this tournament, 0.9 expected goals conceded. Haaland versus Oyarzabal, I'm guessing, 12th man. Probably Oyarzabal. Yeah, don't forget your chips. Exactly that. Make sure it's active. For me, the clean sheet is active. You can see it on the left-hand corner of your screen. And I think I'm going to stick with it. And that's where Dest could come into play, and maybe I can sort of deal with the lack of French defensive coverage by having some defenders who might concede 1 goal and yet still deliver clean sheet points. You have enough money to do Pickford to Maignan for a -3? Yes, I do, but I don't think it's worth the hit. Does the clean sheet booster count with players on the bench? It only counts players technically in your starting 11. Having said that, yeah, ultimately, for example, Vinicius Jr. had 4 points in my starting 11. I took him out, then he's only got 2 points, but only those in your starting 11 will contribute towards your final score. But that's that. The deadline is over. And there we go. We are now... Bloody hell, what am I doing? Yeah, we are now... Yeah, done. Round of 16. We'll see what happens there. But we had so much drama already in the round of 32, a brand new stage of the tournament. Medina was subbed off due to cramp, and he was a bit shaky for the first goal, a bit too lackadaisical, a bit too casual, and I think Tagliafico will start the next game, so I sold him for Lisandro Martinez. Can you change captain between games now? You can do it in every single round of the competition, even Matchday 8, where you don't just have the World Cup final, you also have the third place playoff, which is where the deadline locks in, so you can change between every single match. I can't wait for the FIFA website trying to calculate clean sheet shield and non-clean sheet shields. Yeah, there could be some issues there. Let's see what happens. I bought in Maignan, Hal, Saibari, and Kane. Sold Konsa, Pulisic, and Haaland. Good transfers. I like them. Obviously, with the Moroccan 3-point family and defender, it's basically a needs must, and it funds other moves more than anything else, but I think it's well thought out. Ivo Pereira says, my team is Pickford, Martinez, Cucurella, Medina, Dest, Hal, Upamecano, Vinicius, Elise, Dembele, Saibari, Manzambi, Mbappe, Kane, Messi. I've got a similar team to you. I just don't think Medina will start, but hopefully you get some points. I had to sell Konsa to afford Kane. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not against that. Good luck as well, FPR Movies. Good name. Dest to Saliba, good transfer. Yes, it's a massive upgrade in my opinion. Clean sheet didn't get activated, damn. Oh, wow. Is that the case for you? Yeah, Yeah, well, I have to wait a little bit, but I did see the shield all throughout. All I want is one Ronaldo penalty. I mean, that's the only way you can score, right? Crepo, Medina, Nemec, Diaz to Manyan, Hakimi, Saibari, Trossard. Looks good. I was thinking about something similar with my original transfer plans, but it is what it is. I'll try to get the game up, but I've had a lot of issues trying to watch the game while streaming, which is very strange. But it is what it is. No clue who my captain was. Think it was Hal. Didn't realize France play right after. Yeah, either way, I'm probably going to change it. But yeah, I've got Saibari as my captain. I'm happy about that. But I think those who have Hakimi, he's the one to go for. And ultimately, Hal could still be quite decent, even with one goal conceded. And if he plays 60 plus minutes, he would give you the clean sheet points. However, the clean sheet shield will not contribute towards scouting bonus, so it's not like Hal's going to get 9 points for a clean sheet if he concedes once. Bear that in mind. That sucks. Maybe it's destined to get used next game week. Yeah, it might be a blessing in disguise. I think match day 6 is a very good time to use it, to be fair. If the match finishes in 90 minutes, we will have time to switch captain to Mbappe, right? Yeah, the France game is at 10 p.m. in the UK. It's currently 6 p.m., so you got just under 6 hours to make the change. Unless there's a heavy delay, you should be good. Yeah, Mbappe next captain for me. I mean, his World Cup record is ridiculous. He's already on 18. Would you captain Hakimi or Saibari? It would have been Hakimi, but it's over now. You might as well do watch-alongs. Well, good idea, and I've done that before when reaching super chat goals and stuff, but if I'm being honest, I've literally got no signal for some reason when I've also got the computer on and streaming. It's very strange. You know what I might end up doing is this. Let's bring up the game in another means. Hopefully it doesn't cause any lag issues, but it might do. Yeah, it's 4 hours before the France match. Oh yeah, I said 6, right? Yeah, it's 4 hours, not 6 hours. There's plenty of time. Yeah, you're right. My captain last match day got 16 points for 32, but the website only registered 30 points because it doesn't count qualification booster points as double points. That's why. I wanted Hakimi and Saibari, but I couldn't get Elise that way, so I went Upamecano, Hal, Elise, and Belhalter as a filler. Fair enough, I've got something similar. I've got a filler in my defense to bring in Elise, and hopefully it's worth it. But yeah, it should be an interesting match day. A few different strategies flying around, and hopefully a lot of points in the process. So I'm going to get the game up live and watch a little bit with you. And then I'm going to have something to eat because I'm not going to lie, I'm starving. Starving out here. Oh, that's annoying. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, it's not even working. Let me get this up. Hopefully I'm not going to ruin anything by doing this. Okay. So yeah, clean sheet shield is active, and that's confirmed. Good to know. And it might come in very useful, actually. Yeah, here we go. I can finally get the game up. This is my best performance in any fantasy game. Makes sense, because you haven't even asked recently if this game is about luck or skill. Pixel Pusher, or what's up? Nemecha, Brown, Dest, Medina to Saibari, Hau, Saliba, and Tagliafico to cover Argentina defense with 0 million in the bank. Scored 135 points last week because I had all of Mbappe, Dembele, and Elise, plus Munoz and Camilo Vargas. Yeah, decent stuff, and we'll see if the triple up in the French attack actually works this time. I think it will, but if it doesn't, then don't be surprised because I've got them in. But yeah, you should be in a good position after everything we discussed earlier in this stream, but football is full of surprises, and so is World Cup Fantasy. I can't believe I went without Hakimi versus Canada, but it made sense and my transfers landed perfectly with 0.0 in the bank. But that's what I mean. I wanted Hakimi as well, but in the end, I think it was best to go for Elise and Hau and all the rest, like Saibari. Thank you, Punjabi. Best of luck to you as well, and cheers. Twisted Parky says Manyan, Martinez, Hal, Dest, Munoz, O'Reilly, Cucurella, Trossard, Saibari, Vinicius, Dembele, Barkla, Kane, Messi, Mbappe. Sold Bellingham, Nemecha, Vargas, Medina for Trossard, Barkla, Hau, and Saibari. Looks good. I think Trossard's a decent pick as well in that Belgium team. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Oh, nice. Michael Oliver. Amazing referee. Canada applying pressure. Yeah. Maybe I underestimated them. Ultimately, I think it will be a cagey game. It could even go the distance, but I'm backing Morocco to win. Hi, I did Pulisic to Saibari for a -3. I probably wouldn't have done it myself, but only time will tell. I think it'll be very close between them this week. Easy says my predictions: Canada 1, Morocco 2, Paraguay 0, France 3, Spain 2-1 after extra time, Belgium 3-2 again after extra time, Brazil 2, Norway 1, Mexico 2, England 1, Argentina 2, Egypt 1, and 1-0 Colombia. I think there'll be a few different scores. Obviously, you saw my ones earlier, but I think in terms of like results, we've gone for all the same. I think maybe USA sneak past Belgium. That's a possibility, but yeah, we could get more surprises. Obviously, you're in Mexico's camp. I think England will beat them. Also, I tried to go different than my competitors. Yeah, it's going to become increasingly more difficult to do that at this stage of the competition, but yeah, if possible, try to have a few differentials in there, but don't force them in. Obviously, in this case, you can see how, but that's mainly from a budget perspective. 2.7% ownership. I just don't think people realize he's starting over Chadi Riyad, who probably still... Let's actually have a look at that very quickly before wrapping this up. Chadi Riyad... Oh, wow. He's got 1.5% ownership. So, yeah. Still very low. Diop with 1.7 as well. But, yeah, from a budget perspective... Yeah, I've got, what, 0.1 in the bank? Actually, that's with the other transfers I talked about. I've got 0.2 in the bank after making these changes. Hopefully, keeping Dest actually works out with a clean sheet shield. What would surprise you the most out of Spain, Brazil, or England getting eliminated? Well, going into this tournament, it would have been Spain, but considering their opponent now in Portugal, obviously I thought Portugal would finish first in their group and then face Argentina in the quarterfinals. Yeah, I think given the fixture, it'd still be England for me against Mexico. I think that'd be a surprise against Mexico. My rank is crap, so it don't matter now. Yeah, look, mine's not great, but I'm happier with it than I was on Matchday 1. It's very competitive, though, because I'm getting 80-plus points in every single Matchday. I mean, look, on Matchday 2, I got 109 points. I got 122 last time out, and yet, yeah, I'm not exactly an elite rank, but yeah, it's just a few mistakes in there, a bit of bad luck as well. But the 12th man was definitely a missed opportunity for me on Matchday 2. Getting Hakimi would have meant I could have neither Saibari or a French defender. Given how unpredictable this World Cup has been, I just couldn't potentially weaken my squad that much for a single player. I had something similar for Matchday 3, and obviously Hakimi hauled, but I still did very well. But it is frustrating when you can't get the exact players you want, but that's where fantasy games come into play with a budget. You can't have them all, and it makes prioritization very important. But Yeah, having a French defender is one of my only possible regrets, I think, for Matchday 5. But maybe the clean sheet shield will help me in terms of sort of negating that loss or absence from my 15-man squad. Thanks everyone for tuning in. It's been an absolute blast talking to you for the past couple of hours. If you haven't done so already, drop a like on this stream and subscribe to my channel, hitting that notification bell in the process. We're getting very close now to 40k subscribers on YouTube, and let's try to get this stream to as many likes as possible, and your support is greatly appreciated. There will be a Matchday 6 deadline stream in a couple of days' time. I think it's the 9th of July, so stay tuned for that one. And in the meantime, I'll be doing a best wildcard squad and my team selection, and that'll be the sort of pattern until the end of the tournament. If you want to see any other piece of content, then let me know in the live chat and the comment section down below. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and the championships, for likes to my videos, proud comments, amongst many other perks. My Discord server, the World Cup Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in the description, and you can still join that World Cup Fantasy League, and all your points from Matchday 1 will count. There is a link in the description. There is also the code and much more, actually, because throughout a lot of the graphics in my videos, you can see it in the left-hand corner of your screen. Let's see if I can actually quickly get that code up for you. Bloody hell, where is it? Oh, yeah, here. So the league code for my mini league is PUOI35VH. So make sure to join if you haven't done so already. And the same goes for my Discord server. I'd highly recommend you join that if you haven't done so already. A great save by Bono, as Aranya said. Cheers, Underil. Thanks, Dylan. Halal pick, or How, we should say, made things easier. Yeah, same here. That opened up the door a little bit. So once I saw Chad Riyad was benched and he's already cheap enough at 3.9, this actually allowed me to buy Elise and Saibari at the same time. What I say by Bono, it's a beautiful day. See what I did there? Yes, and I'm not surprised. You're not a stranger to these, these puns. Let's put it that way. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you very soon for the next deadline stream for Matchday 6 as we approach the quarterfinals. But in the meantime, let's enjoy the round of 16, get those green arrows, and win our mini leagues in World Cup Fantasy.